WW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, November 16th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, light snow, -2. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Breaking news on the education front. It's something that parents with young kids in school will want to keep a close eye on and have a plan B. The union representing thousands of education workers who went on strike earlier this month to back their contract demands could be getting ready to do so again. City News Queen's Park reporter Richard Southern joins us with the new developments.
This could mean another strike in Ontario schools. CUPE has filed another strike notice. This is according to the Education Minister's office. The union has scheduled a news conference for 10 o'clock. Things apparently have soured quickly. It was only last night that City News got a statement from CUPE's Laura Walton indicating that the union was at the bargaining table, quote, committed to achieving a freely negotiated contract agreement. That has obviously changed now with a strike notice likely given. A statement from the Education Minister's office says since resuming talks, they've, quote, put forward multiple improved offers, but that, quote, CUPE has rejected all of those offers. Richard Southern, City News.
And if the strike does go ahead, it will affect students in the Ottawa Catholic School Board, the Upper Canada District School Board, the Catholic District School Board of Eastern Ontario, along with both English language boards in Renfrew County. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
A winter weather travel advisory is in place. 5 to as much as 8 centimeters of snow could accumulate by about 5 o'clock tonight. Our guaranteed high +1. Chance of some more flurries tonight, though, even though the bulk of it ends around 5 this evening. -4 for the low. For today, the guaranteed high +1.
City News time is 10:03. It's the first snow day of the winter season today. And as usual, it takes a while to get used to driving in these conditions. Now, Bryden Dennis, the area manager for Area Roads, tells us his advice to motorists this morning is to take your time and drive carefully.
Be aware of the conditions that are out there. We are seeing traffic delays already, and again, our staff are out there treating the snow and slushy areas, and we'll continue to do that throughout the day.
He says his team will be on the roads all day, salting the main routes, sidewalks, winter cycling networks, and they'll be moving into the residential areas before the end of the day. Now, Ottawa Police says 36 collisions and counting have already been reported since midnight. Officers urge you to slow down today. And there was a 7-cent drop in gas prices overnight for regular unleaded, with another drop expected tonight. But diesel prices are also set to drop by 13 cents a litre tomorrow. Dan McTagg, the With Canadian for Affordable Energy, tells Wake Up with Rob Snow show it is hard to predict the price of regular gas these days.
We are in a situation where we could see prices move up 10 cents a litre or drop 10 cents a litre, almost at a given notice, and it's not easy to predict long term when short term looks so choppy.
McTagg says right now there is a tightness in oil supply that is combining with other factors for the unpredictability in prices. I am Damilola Unime. And for news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Wednesday. I'm so happy to be here. A little slow off the take this morning. I'm still getting over what a wonderful night I had last night. Broadway across Canada, of course, presented Pretty Woman at the NAC, and it was fantastic. If you can go get tickets, it was amazing. We look forward to sharing all those details with you a little bit later. Very busy show today. We're going to have David Phillips talking about what's happening in terms of weather. I got up this morning, looked outside, and said an F word, and it was fiddlesticks because, of course, it's snowing outside. It's that time of the year, and we look forward to chatting with David Phillips a little bit later. We're also going to speak with Lyra Evans, chair of Zone 1, chair of the board West Carleton. We're going to be speaking about that a little bit later. We're also going to be speaking with Tony House. Tony is a coach for Canada Top Flight Academy. We're going to be speaking with him about a very important event that's happening soon. It's going to be a very busy day today. We know we're watching very closely to see what's going to happen with education workers and CUPE. There is to be a press conference. We're watching for that. We will make sure to bring some of that to you as soon as we can. So we'll be going in and out of that today, as well as we watch for what's happening in terms of education workers and how it's going to affect some of those school boards, the Ottawa Catholic School Board being one of them. On the minds of so many, in the last 24 hours, I can't even tell you how many conversations I've had with people in regards to what's happening at the hospitals, and particularly in regards to children. Dr. Jacqueline Wong joins me now, pediatric infectious disease specialist with McMaster Children's Hospital. Hello, Dr. Wong.
Hi, good morning.
Dr. Wong, I have seen staggering numbers. We spoke with another doctor yesterday in regards to what's happening in children's hospitals. What is the reality right now for parents and children when it comes to the triple threat?
Yeah, so, the headlines are telling us that there is a lot more volume of children who are going into hospitals, and there is more acuity, meaning children are presenting more sick. And as you alluded to, there are a number of viruses right now that are contributing to all this, RSV and the influenza virus being the main two drivers. And then, of course, there are COVID infections as well. And so what it looks like is, longer wait times in the emergency departments, longer waits before being seen by a healthcare provider sometimes. And it also means that, family doctor offices, pediatrician offices, walk-in clinics, when we're talking about after hours, those settings are going to be busier too.
It is certainly frightening for parents. What would you say to a parent listening right now if their little one is not well? What would you say to them?
Yeah, and I think it's important to kind of put this in context. And I appreciate that a lot of parents haven't heard of the RSV virus until this season. But as someone who works in infectious diseases and pediatrics, this is kind of our bread and butter. Like every year we expect RSV to cause illnesses at this time and to make children sick. There are some seasons that are going to be more challenging than others. Mm-hmm. And this year, what's a little bit different is you have a couple of viruses circulating at the same time where the numbers of kids getting sick with them are kind of peaking at the same time. But what to reassure parents with is to let them know the vast majority of children who get RSV or influenza or COVID do totally well at home. Mm-hmm. So despite what we're seeing in the hospitals, the vast majority of children get over these infections just fine. It's important to remind parents of what to do when their children are sick. So making sure they have lots of fluids, be it chicken soup, be it, right, milk, be it water, so that they can stay hydrated. Mm-hmm. And it helps loosen the secretions for them and make it a little bit more comfortable for them.
Dr. Wong, I really appreciate your time today. I really value that. Let's have you on again as we continue to work through this healthcare issue we're having right now, okay?
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Jacqueline Wong spending time with us today, pediatric infectious disease specialist with McMaster Children's Hospital. I'm going to bring you right now to the news conference happening by CUPE. Laura Walton is speaking, and of course, head of CUPE. Stay with us.
At every turn by a government that categorically refuses to invest in our schools and prioritize our students. I'm so proud of my coworkers for doing the hard thing and for standing up for what is right, what is needed, and what is just. We have 5 days before this strike notice period expires. That is 5 days for this government to recognize the opportunity that they have to make a difference in the lives of 2 million Ontario students. 5 days. And then education workers, parents, and every ally who cares about young people and public education in this province will make their voices heard once more. I urge the Ford government to seize the time we have and do the right thing. Come forward with a deal that truly helps students catch up. I'm now going to turn it over to Mark Hancock, National President of CUPE.
Great, thank you, Laura. And I'm here with Candace Rennick, our National Secretary-Treasurer. And before I get into my comments, I want to thank all of the people up on stage with me, the members of the bargaining committee of the OSBCU. You know, it's thankless work quite often, and this group of leaders has shown incredible leadership and understanding of what our members are going through across the province. I want to thank all of you personally for that work. So let me start off by saying nobody's exactly sure what's going to happen over the next few days, but we do know a few things for certain. We know that our 55,000 members in the education sector across Ontario, out of all of them, not one of them wants to go on strike. Going on strike is always our last resort, and it's never something that we take lightly. Our members would much rather be in schools working and helping kids succeed in their classes than walking a picket line. I can tell you that much. Another thing we know for certain is how deeply all of our members care about public education in this province. They care deeply that every kid in our school has their needs met. They care that every school is clean and safe and a good place to learn. They care that every kid has the support that they need in class to succeed and to thrive. And let's acknowledge that good quality public education costs money. But families, parents, and workers all agree in this province it's worth it because it's for our kids. And we also know that underfunding education has its own price. And that cost doesn't just show up in the ledger at the provincial legislature. That cost is reflected elsewhere. We see the cost of underfunding when we help vulnerable kids, when we see that they aren't getting what they need in schools. We see the cost of underfunding when there aren't enough staff to keep schools safe and clean. We see the cost of underfunding when we look at the people who look after our kids at school, and they have to get a second or a third job, and they still have to utilize food banks across this province. When this government underfunds education, it's the kids and the workers who look after them that pay the price. We're standing here today because that has to stop. I've said this before, but I'll mention it again. CUPE isn't just the largest union in Ontario. We're the largest and strongest union in Canada. When this government tries to bully 55,000 education workers here in Ontario, all 715,000 members across this country will have their back. And as we said all along, we're going to back Laura, this committee, and our 55,000 education workers all the way to the finish line until they get a deal that works for everyone. That is exactly what kids, what parents, and workers in this province deserve. And we're going to stand by and make sure that they get it. Our committee and our union remains ready to get this deal done and find our way to an agreement that works for parents, for kids, and for workers. Thank you. Next is Fred Hahn, President of CUPE Ontario.
As we know, Laura Walton, Educational Assistant and President of CUPE for the Ottawa School Board's Council of Unions, spoke a little bit. We know that they are in that strike action position right now, which is that 5 days notice. We also heard from Mark Hancock, National President of CUPE. Once again, here we are again. What's going to happen with this government? How are we going to solve this issue? We cannot be playing ping pong with these kids anymore. Let's get this done, everybody. We're going to be following this story very closely here on City News. Lock it in, everyone.
Sam Laprade Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Treaty in Cree is Naskumetoin, an oral agreement, and our agreements were always spoken. For George Spence, the core of treaty was Wichihioin, to help one another.
And so we, the commissioners...
He was there for the making of Treaty 9, where the Cree were told...
We will honor this agreement together, for as long as the sun shines and the waters flow.
The Cree made their mark because they were assured that the land would be shared, and they would always be able to harvest what they needed. George Spence was my great-grandfather. In his life, he saw many promises of the treaty go unfulfilled.
Treaties were essential to the creation of Canada. First Nations still fight for the agreements to be honored.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
We're in infinity. Hi, my name is Isabel. I'll be performing as part of Encore Ottawa 3. I hope you can tune in and catch it on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, well, of course, I know it's always coming, but snow is, the first day is always a big deal, especially on the roads. And when there's weather I want to talk about, I know exactly where to go, and that's David Phillips, senior climatologist with Environment Canada. Good morning, David.
Hey, good morning, Sam. Nice to be with you. And you're right. It's not a big event, but because it's the first one,
right?
That really makes it a significant event, and probably why we have, a weather advisory out. We normally wouldn't issue a weather advisory for 5 centimeters of snow. I mean, in Ottawa, you get about 16 of these events of 5 centimeters or more a year. So, but the fact it's the first one, and be thankful that it's not a huge dump of snow. I mean, I've seen some years in October where you've got maybe 28 centimeters of snow at the first dump, and that really does create chaos. Or what about last January the 17th? I can't believe it. 48 centimeters of snow fell that day in Ottawa. I mean, you guys are veterans of snow wars.
Right.
But so 5 centimeters is not a big deal. You won't remember. This will be not a memorable storm at the end of the year. But because it's the first one, and snowplow operators need to find their route, and also the fact that a lot of the sand and salt that is left as residue on the on the roads is not there, and so it just makes it a little bit more treacherous. And of course, the other thing, Sam, is that, my gosh, you went from summery-like weather just a week ago to the warmest Remembrance Day ever, and to now you're dealing with the cold and the snow.
Well, I think that's why I was in denial this morning.
Yes, exactly.
So let's talk.
I think we, even as Canadians, we live in the second coldest country in the world,
right,
the snowiest country in the world. We somehow think that maybe we'll skip winter this year.
Right. I was definitely in denial. And I always like talking about staying power. Has this storm have staying power, David? Is it going to stick with us, or are we going to lose this and get some new stuff?
You know, that's a very good point. We often, think, well, gee, what happened? We think that the snow comes and was, okay, winter's in, and now we're going to go from, it's almost like Remembrance Day to Easter. We're dealing with winter. But what it's going to have, even though it's a small amount, it's going to have staying powers for the next week. Because you look at the temperatures over the next week, they're all going to be nothing really above the melting point. So it's going to look like a white wonderland there, but even not with a large depth of snow. The flurries will add to clean the snow over the next couple of days. But I don't think this is your white Christmas snow. Because we're going to see some warmer days, some milder days, temperatures that could be up to 4, 5, 6 degrees in December. I think November is looking a little on the cool side. But certainly there's a lot of opportunity for kind of fallish like weather to come back. So my sense is that, hey, this is just a kind of a dress rehearsal. It's a reminder that nature's saying, okay, get your snow tires on, find out where your snow plow is, your snow shovel, and your snow pants, and get ready for it. And this is just what really it is, the purpose of this kind of snowfall today.
Well, you'd be so proud of me. I got my tires on last week, because usually what happens is it snows the day before my appointment. So you'll be very proud of me this year. That is not the case.
And we think alike. I got my snow tires on last week, and here we are. We're dealing with snow. People would think that we have some kind of a magic or sort of pipeline to the weather gods, but my gosh, no! It just happened to be this is the year we. Now, often by this time, you've already had your snow. I mean, you've only had a trace so far this winter, but often you have more Octobers with snow than not. And certainly here we are in the middle of even beyond the middle of November, and you typically would have had your snow. Now, last year we had just a trace. I think the first snowfall was about this time last year. So here we have 2 years in a row, very similar, a very slow start to the winter season.
So let me ask you this. We only have about a minute. What is this winter looking like? Can you give us a bit of a teaser into the winter time?
Yeah, I think just because we had a late snow and only a dusting so far, even today, it doesn't give you a clue as to what the winter is going to unfold. We know it's another La Nina. This is the colder water in the Pacific, but that used to give me a clue as to what the winter was going to be. It tended to be a little snowier and colder than normal winter in Ottawa, but not anymore. And the last 2 winters are really indicative of the kind of thing we might see colder than normal, like we saw last year, or it might have been warmer than normal like the year before. So my sense is we'll have more snow than last year because we had still less than normal, but it won't be as cold as it was last year. But I think the other thing is the duration of it. Will it go on very long? And that's something we can't really say. It's kind of started slowly, but it may pick up when we get into February.
Well, that means we just have to keep on talking with you, David.
Okay. I look forward to that. If that's what the weather does, I'm all for it.
Oh, awesome. I feel the same way. David Phillips, senior climatologist with Environment Canada, giving us a bit of a taste about the chilliness to come. But if you want something to warm your heart, we're heading all the way to Russell to speak with Doug Anthony. Hi, Doug. How are you, Doug?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing great.
Doug is the vice president of the Kin Club of Russell and chair of the Catch the Ace. Things are pretty hot in Russell right now. Tell us all about it.
Well, Sam, we have the hottest ticket in the province, and we can only thank all of our local supporters and people that have been giving back to charities. The Catch the Ace, we're in week 22, but we're already at $141,000 for the jackpot and the weekly wins are going over $8,000.
Wow.
The ticket sales are coming in from across the province once again, and people here locally are doing it, and they've done it religiously because they like supporting the 6 charities that we have. And if anyone's interested in buying a ticket, because I'd love to sell some tickets here, you can buy them online, www.kinclubofrussell.ca, or just Google Kin Club of Russell or Catch the Ace, and we're pretty easy to find.
And you certainly have had an incredible run with past games. You've raised a lot of money, Doug. Tell us how much you've raised to date.
Well, we've raised probably, close to about $1.5 million so far.
Wow.
And for a little town of 18,000 people, we're over the moon with that. But our supporters are all over the eastern region and now across the entire province, Sam, as you were aware. It's just been so much fun.
And I feel like I really do sort of cut myself in half. Half of me is like, let's catch the ace. The other half is like, let's not catch the ace, because of course that it keeps growing and growing and growing. And we saw that happen, to you last time, where you actually got, to right pretty much to the end, Doug.
Yeah, we went to 50 weeks, and that's pretty well unheard of, or it's pretty rare. The odds are against that. We gave away $750,000 in prizes just to one person.
Wow.
So it certainly helped. And what is really gratifying, Sam, and I know you truly appreciate it, is seeing the Winchester District Memorial Hospital Foundation receiving so much money, and Valorous, and now we have the Good Neighbors Food Bank, and we have Victoria Quilts, and Osgood Care Center, and the Kin Club of Russell Storage Center. It's just been amazing and inspiring to see all of these charities getting a lot of well-needed money. And if I can sort of hijack you for a minute, I just want to tell all of your listeners, your very loyal listeners, that Sam was just recognized by the Township of Russell from the mayor for all of her contributions.
Aww.
And she is now officially an honorary member of the Kin Club of Russell for everything that you do in this area, Sam. You're an incredible philanthropist and an altruistic person. We love you.
Oh, I love you guys, and it means so much to me. As you know, I kind of cried when you told me, because I was, and you presented me with that beautiful plaque. It really is very special to me. As you know, my family's from Russell, and I get emotional every time I drive by that little town, because I just love it so much, and I love spending time with all of you. Thank you so much, Doug, and good luck with Catch the Ace. I'm going to be following, and of course, I'm going to buy my tickets too, okay?
Again, www.kinclubofrussell.ca. And Sam, you're loved here, but you're loved across the entire province. You're an amazing person, my friend.
Thank you so much. Doug Anthony spending time with us today, Vice President of the Kin Club of Russell and Chair of Catch the Ace. He works very, very hard, and make sure you get your tickets, everyone. When we come back, we're going to talk about masking. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
After a 2-year hiatus, we are back with brand new episodes of Celebrate Ottawa starting this fall. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that will entertain you and will even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grind, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, prendiamo un café. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, November 16th. Good morning. I am Damilola Nime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smith Falls, light snow and -1. And here's what's making news this hour. CUPE, the union representing 55,000 Ontario education workers, has filed a 5-day strike notice, saying bargaining talks with the province has broken down once again. Laura Walton, president of CUPE's Ontario School Boards Council of Unions, in a news conference says she hoped the government would value the work that CUPE members do, but they did not. Now, CUPE says it reached middle ground with the government on wages, but the notice of a potential province-wide strike comes after what it calls a refusal from the province to invest in the services that students need and parents expect. Now, if the strike goes ahead on Monday, it will affect schools in the Ottawa Catholic School Board, the Upper Canada District Board, the Catholic District School Board of Eastern Ontario, along with both English language boards in Renfrew County. Meanwhile, the MPP for Ottawa Vanier, Lucille Collard, has introduced a bill that, if adopted, would restrict the use of the notwithstanding clause in future legislation. It was used this month by the province to prevent a challenge to a bill which forced a contract on CUPE workers and prevented them from a court challenge. The bill calls for the use of the notwithstanding clause to be limited so it is not used casually or on a regular basis. City News time is 10:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, so many different topics that are being talked about at the water cooler. This is definitely one of them, and that is masking mandates in schools. The Ottawa Carleton District School Board had a meeting last night. All of those trustees were sworn in. Lyra Evans is the new chair, representing Zone 6. Rito Vanier, Rito Rockcliffe. Welcome to the show, Lyra.
It's great to be here.
Lyra, there was obviously a very important meeting yesterday where you were all sworn in for these new roles, but something else happened as well. Tell us what that was.
Last night was only the swearing in.
Oh, it was the only swearing in. So there wasn't a motion then last night. The motion is then this Friday, correct?
So there's a meeting this afternoon to determine when a meeting is going to be called.
Okay.
Last night there was a discussion from amongst some of the trustees about the fact that we do want to call a meeting.
Okay. So thank you for straightening me out on that. There's been so much discussion about that, so I needed to hear it from the chair, so thank you for that. So walk me through the process in terms of a potential special meeting on masking in schools.
So the first thing that any public policy has to do is find the facts. So the school board's going to need to figure out what the impacts would be on requiring masks, whether it is the impacts on school closure rates, whether it is the impacts on students in the hospitals, whether it's the impacts on education outcomes for students learning a second language. So we're going to get a report which has as many facts as we have to inform the new trustees and the old trustees about what the impacts would be of having a return to a requirement for masks. Mm-hmm. At the meeting this afternoon, there's going to be a discussion. We have an agenda planning meeting, and there's going to be a discussion about when that meeting can be held. There are requirements for notice for meetings. So a meeting of the board requires at least 48 hours notice to all the trustees. which means this meeting could not happen before Friday. I have heard strong indications from several of the trustees that they would like to have this meeting in place so that were a mask mandate to pass, it would be in place for Monday, which leaves us with Friday, Saturday, or Sunday for possible days if that ask is going to be achieved.
Mm-hmm. And you're the new chair. How's that feeling?
It's going to be an uphill learning curve, but I'm excited. I thank the trustee colleagues who entrusted me with this position, and I look forward to all the work we have to do.
Well, you've certainly been put into a very early position of one that's going to be a big debate, I'm assuming. How does the group choose the chair? Was this a vote amongst your colleagues?
Yeah. So the public chooses one trustee per zone, usually 2 to 3 wards, and then each trustee can pick up to one person to vote for chair. It's a secret ballot, and I was elected by the majority of the trustees.
Were you surprised, Lyra?
Pleasantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was pleasantly surprised.
So let me ask you, there's lots of debates. We're hearing it. Dave Smith, who has the Talkback Hour here on City News the last couple of days, has been sort of opening the phone lines and asking people, do you think there should be masks in school, that it should be debated? He as well had a conversation, and Rob Snow has had a conversation as well with Dr. Nili Kaplan-Murth, who is newly elected to your board as well regarding this. Do you think you have the support around the table to implement a mask mandate starting potentially Monday?
I'm not going to try and predict the actions of the board. I think what comes in that report, the facts that get presented to the board, are going to give people the information they need to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't predict the future. I wish that I could.
Will you? Well, I think we all do, right? Will you share how you're feeling about this topic?
So last time the mask requirement came up, my personal vote went in favor of supporting a masking requirement because we have a dual duty to both the well-being and the educational needs of students, and we have a responsibility to students with disabilities, particularly immunocompromised students, particularly students at the district who might have immunocompromised family members. And so we have to make sure that we are taking the most prudent position. I know a lot of kids are not going to wear masks when they hang out with their friends, or a lot of kids aren't going to go to the mall or to the movies and not wear masks. But there are going to be kids who are immunocompromised, who have to go to school, who would wear masks in those situations. Mm-hmm. And we must take the position that protects all of our students. And that's why I have voted in favor of masking requirements in the past.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. I mean, a mask mandate by a school board, in this case, the Ottawa Carleton District School Board, if you were to implement this, and let's say it's Monday morning, and there are, 5 teenagers that are in grade 10 and they arrive at a school and they refuse to wear a mask, mm-hmm. what happens to those 5 kids?
So we have a general escalation of behavior things. Like the same question could be asked, what happens if those 5 students light a cigarette in class? And then refuse to put it out? There's an escalation that happens for behavior that is deemed contrary to the expectations of students.
We've heard from... Sorry, I interrupted you. No, you go ahead, Lyra.
Or I was going to say, or contrary to the expectations that the district has for students.
Mm-hmm. So we've heard from parents calling in here and parents in our network saying to us, I will tell my child not to wear a mask. So what happens then if little Susie or little Johnny's sitting in class and their teacher says, you need to be wearing a mask, and they say, well, mom and dad said I didn't have to wear a mask today. What happens then?
So, like I said, there's a sort of general escalation when these things are not followed. And this is not going to be the case for students with human rights exemption. So the last time the school board implemented a masking requirement, we put an exemption for human rights-based cases in. So if you were a student with high-needs autism who really struggled and had medical documentation saying that you weren't going to be able to wear a mask full-time, those exemptions were carved out. And so if this is a case where a student has those needs, those cases would be exempt. But generally the expectation, and this would depend on what kind of motion the board passes, but the expectation that I would put into a motion if I were drafting it would be that all students would be expected to.
Mm-hmm. Now, we know Ottawa Public Health hasn't mandated this. We know how much masking is wrapped up in politics right now. Is this a situation where, because Ottawa Public Health is not, sort of putting this mandate on this particular district, that, you're going to get a lot of people saying, well, Ottawa Public Health doesn't think we need it. Why does the Ottawa Carleton District School Board think differently than Ottawa Public Health?
Ottawa Public Health put out a statement recently saying they would support any organization that wanted to have a masking mandate or a masking requirement.
And so when you speak with, and by the way, not that I'm against it, I'm just wanting to kind of understand what sort of barriers are in your way to doing this. I mean, is there anything that could stand in your way? If the board votes this way, is there anything else that could stand in your way from actually implementing it?
So the district got a legal opinion, a memo about which was released publicly. All the years over the pandemic blended together, but it was some point over the pandemic. We released a memo about the legal authority the district has to implement this. So the only question is, are the trustees willing to put it in, and what is the public backlash going to look like?
Because it does become an exercise in public relations, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you're prepared for that as our new chair?
Well, that is the role I took on.
It's certainly one, and I have to say, Lyra, and I've said this to you before, and I've said this to other political officials. I mean, you sacrifice a lot to take on these jobs, right? And you know that in the next week or so, there's going to be a backlash, probably either way. How do you prepare for that?
So, people go into politics, hopefully, with the intention of trying to do their best and to make society the best that it can be. And I know that there is no decision that is going to make everyone happy. And it becomes an exercise of, can we make a decision that is the best for society and that will bring the most benefit?
Do you think, because of the size of your school board, that in many ways you set the pace for other school boards? Have you already heard from other school board elected officials saying, well, I guess if you do it, we're going to have to do it? Do you feel like that the Ottawa Carleton District School Board sets the pace?
So we are one of the larger districts in the province. I think Toronto is the largest, but we are one of the bigger ones, and we are definitely the biggest one in the eastern region. And so when we make a decision, other school boards do look to what we have done, and there's a bit of, well, they have done it, so we can too. I have spoken with a number of other elected officials, new trustees, returning trustees, about the issues of masks in schools, and people are coming down in all kinds of different ways. Some of the smaller boards have more vocal pushback to a masking requirement.
Mm-hmm. Do you have, I'm just switching topics for a second, do you have anybody involved in CUPE working at the Ottawa Carleton District School Board that would be affected by the strikes, or is that all with the Ottawa Catholic School Board and some of the French boards and some of the outlining areas?
The Ottawa Carleton District School Board does not have any CUPE members, and therefore would not be impacted by a CUPE strike.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for letting me flip topics so quickly on you there. Your time is valued, and I know that the next couple of days are going to be challenging no matter which way this goes. I know it's hot off the press that you are the new chair it will be a role that is not going to be easy, but one that's definitely appreciated. And I know over the next 4 years, Lyra, I'm hoping that we can spend some time and delve into some of these subjects.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for having me on.
I appreciate it. Take care.
Bye.
Lyra Evans spending time with us today. Chair Zone 6, Rito Vanier, Rito Rockcliffe. Appreciate their time today. When we come back, unfortunately, we're probably going to break your heart. It's a story that is very difficult to talk about, but you'll want to be here. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
You like what you see.
Hi guys, my name is Vi and I'm a part of Encore Ottawa 3. My set at the Meridian Theatre is coming out this week and I hope you tune in.
It's been 2 years later, you're still...
It was my daughter's birthday. She was blowing out the candles on her cake when we heard coming from the TV. So we stopped and listened, and it helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of my daughter's birthday, because now she gets to keep having them.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
I am Audrey. And I'm Leah. Leah inspired me to play hockey. The Warriors has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine.
What does yours do? The stick clicks in it.
My device from the Warriors allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, I'm going to take you back to 1987. I was sitting in a classroom at St. Pius X, and we needed a supply teacher. And in walked Mr. House, who I can now call Tony House because he's a friend of mine. Hi, Tony. How are you?
Hey, Sam. I'm doing fine, thank you.
And Tony, you have been involved for so many years in so many different ways, and one of the roles that you play, which you just thrive at, my friend, is Canada Top Flight Academy when it comes to basketball. You are the coach, the founder. Walk me through a little bit about how you got involved in this academy.
Yeah, so it's really a labor of love, and I've been involved with basketball for over most of my life. I started playing when I was 6 years old, and then obviously when your playing days are over, I think the natural progression is coach. So I've been coaching, and I'm aging myself. Like you talked about Mr. House, I'm 35 years into coaching, and the CTA Academy, great partnership structured with the Catholic School Board. I've got two amazing teams of high-level, elite-level athletes looking to kind of play at the next level, universities and whatnot. So it's been a really good ride, and love what I'm doing. As they say, if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. So I'm pretty thrilled.
Well, it shows, Tony. I'm so happy for you. And as I followed your career over the years and followed all the young men that came into your life through this basketball academy, my heart was broken a couple of weeks ago. I was watching, you and your beautiful wife on social media, and you were talking about a young man by the name of Steph. First of all, tell me about Steph.
Yeah, so this young man, Steph Okenge, he joined our academy for a couple of years, 2017 to 2019. And the minute he joined us, he had a major impact on me as a coach on the floor. I don't think there's a kid, and I've been doing this a long time. He'd definitely be like a top 5 kid in work ethic, and just so goal-oriented. No one outworks him in the weight room, on the floor, and then off the floor and in the classroom, he works his tail off. And I think, anyone who runs into him, meets him for the first time, he's such a great kid that, he's almost like your best friend the moment you meet him. So, unfortunately, I'm still numb over this. All my players are kind of mine for life, and I have a special bond with all of them, but this one's crushing. He was in a devastating car accident a few weeks ago, and is now a quadriplegic, and he's in the United States. And again, I got goosebumps right now just talking about it. And it's tough. I thought that having practices and would keep me kind of distracted, but then I look at my players this year and I see Steph in all of them. So it's pretty tough.
So, Tony, tell me about, as I mentioned, I saw on social media and just saw you saying, you and Sharon both saying, prayers for Steph. And I didn't really understand what that meant. And as more information has come forward, you've indicated that he has been left with a devastating, life-altering injury. What happened? Do you know, Tony?
I think it was one of those things where, unfortunately, the driver nodded off and went to sleep and ran off the road. They ran into a cement culvert, and Steph got the worst of it. And so, big time, spinal trauma, unbelievable whiplash. But in the end, now he's sitting in a hospital bed, and he's got the toughest game of his life ahead of him. But if there's any kid that can kind of handle it, I think Steph is that one. He's got so much courage before it. He's one of the toughest kids I've ever coached before. So if it's a young man that can handle this challenge of anyone that I've coached, it'll be Steph. But it's not going to be easy. So we're going to try and do what we can from Ottawa's standpoint. It's an amazing community, as we know. I've been involved with a lot of fundraising events, and it's such a generous community. Notre Dame, the host high school we operate out of, is excited because he was a big part of Notre Dame. He's a Notre Dame student, but he's a CTA athlete. And together, in conjunction with Notre Dame, we're hopefully going to have an amazing evening for him Thursday, December 1st, and raise a ton of money, which the family can use.
And it's called a Slam for Steph, aptly named, of course, in terms of his basketball and his love of basketball. Tony, walk me through what the objectives are for that night.
Yeah, well, obviously, again, it's a fundraising event, so the family is going to be facing a lot of expenses. They do have some insurance, but he's lying in an ICU unit in Nebraska, so we know that in the U.S. it's kind of pay to play, and it can be, very expensive. So it doesn't take long for, $500,000 to run out, and then, I know the mother has now quit her job to be with him for the next little bit, and then, the biggest thing is we're going to try to get him into, somewhere in Ottawa. Peggy Tyon, who sits on our board, obviously a big, hospital executive in healthcare, she's doing what she can to help expedite Steph when he's ready to move. But ultimately, it's going to be a great, a celebration of, this current CTA teams. We're inviting, obviously, former players to come or, do a personal video. Hopefully, again, Steph will be able to watch, Instagram live posts, Facebook live posts from his bed. We just want to create some smiles and some joy to him because it's tough, no doubt about it.
Tony, you've coached a long time, and you're used to coaching on the court. How do you coach a kid through this?
Yeah, it's tough because you can't, it's easy when you're coaching because as a former player, you've experienced it, different opportunities, different ways to react and adjust in a game. But I don't know. I can only imagine what he's going through. So all you can kind of say is, keep the faith, keep his confidence up, because I really feel that, if you want it religious, like God has a plan. And, at the end of the day, this is a young man that can handle it. And I'm not saying that, anything's over because, a miracle and some hard work, he may be up, walking, feeling his hands, whatever. Again, if there's someone that can see this through, it's definitely Steph. But all I can say is, keep the faith, keep the hope, and be positive like he was on the court, and good things were happening to him. It's tough as a 19-year-old with your whole life ahead of you. Mm-hmm. And this is just obviously a huge hurdle, but I really do, and I keep echoing this, is that, a kid like Steph, a young man like Steph, I really believe that he'll make the most of this.
And, I know how busy your family is. I mean, I have to have a nap just watching what you do in a week, all of you. But in those quiet moments when you're just by yourself, Tony, how do you even process what's happened to Steph and sort of think about ideas like this to try and bring the community together? What are those moments like for you?
Yeah, well, I still haven't processed it, really. As I told you from the top, I'm still kind of numb. Mm-hmm. And it's just, what can we, and again, not just me, because it takes a village, as you know, and this Ottawa village is an amazing place. Having grown up, born and raised here, this is a very, great, kind community that's going to support him. And whether it's financially, emotionally, whatever we can do physically, we're going to do. But, we're really busy, so I really don't have a lot of downtime. Mm-hmm. But he's in my thoughts and prayers, constantly. And as I said, we're really thrilled that we can do something December 1st. And it's not just about the money, but I want to gather the whole community. I want to put these videos out. We're going to have a picture presentation of him. We're going to share with the family and him. I want to bring a smile to his face.
Beautifully said. Tony, you're the coach of coaches, my friend. I really appreciate everything you're doing for Steph and his family, and keep up the great work.
I appreciate you having me, Sam. I really do.
Appreciate it. Tony House spending time with us today, a coach at Canada Top Flight Academy, talking about a young man who unfortunately was in a life-altering accident. And he's trying to raise some money there on December the 1st, so definitely check that out. It's called Slam for Steph. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
We're in infinity pool. Hi, my name is Isabel. I'll be performing as part of Encore Ottawa 3. I hope you can tune in and catch it on Rogers TV.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivalive.org to find out more.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, prendiamo un caffè. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, November 16th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, light snow, -1. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The battle lines have once again been drawn between the union representing more than 50,000 education workers and the province. CUPE says talks with the province have broken down and they will not back down because they are fighting for the kids and the education that they deserve. City News Queen's Park reporter Richard Southern has more.
CUPE, they walked out for 2 days, right? And then the Ford government pulled down the legislation and they were back to work. Well, now CUPE has set a new strike date. The union says there will be a full strike this coming Monday, November 21st. If a deal isn't reached by then, and it's not looking particularly good right now, talks have fallen apart. Would you believe the two sides actually had an agreement on wages? But CUPE's Laura Walton says the sticking point was the government, she says, refusing to offer additional services for kids.
This government refused to put a single cent into new student services. We wanted early childhood educators in every kindergarten class. We wanted EAs supporting not just students with special needs, but having the appropriate time to do so.
Education Minister Stephen Lecce speaking not long ago here at Queen's Park.
We have put forward multiple improved offers that would have added hundreds of millions of dollars across the spectrum, especially for the lowest income workers. CUPE has rejected all of these improved offers.
Just to be clear, there is or there is not back to work legislation in the works, sir?
The government is going to stay at the table to get a deal. That is our obligation. That is our focus. We want a negotiated settlement with the union.
So that's where we're at. Both sides say they are still open to a deal, but barring that, it's another strike in Ontario schools on Monday. Reporting live at Queen's Park, Richard Southern, City News.
And if the strike does go ahead on Monday, it would affect students in the Ottawa Catholic School Board, the Upper Canada District Board, the Catholic District School Board of Eastern Ontario, along with both the English language boards in the Renfrew County. And with the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Snow, the weather story today, and it'll be with us until about 5 o'clock this evening. 5 to 8 centimeters could accumulate. Some areas could even see a little bit more. Guaranteed high +1, -4 for the low. Chance of some more flurries for Thursday and Friday with highs only about 1 or 2 degrees. The average high 4. For today, the guaranteed high +1.
City News time is 11:03. The morning commute was a bit hectic due to a few centimeters of snow falling. City News reporter Chris Curris with tips on how you can be safer on the roads this afternoon.
Ottawa got hit with a midweek blast of winter weather, and many drivers were left unprepared, considering that it was shorts weather just last week. Brian Denius is the area manager of roads with the City of Ottawa and says it's important to get used to driving in these conditions once again.
Can't stress enough that take your time. Be aware and drive to the conditions that are out there. There are some slushy and slippery spots and snow-covered areas out there.
Dozens of collisions reported this morning. Police say you should be putting on or at least getting your winter tires ready, making sure your windshield washer fluid is topped up, and clearing off the top of your car of any snow. Chris Curry's City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
have a busy day today in the newsroom here at City News, and thanks so much for tuning in on Rogers TV as well. We appreciate it very much and listening on City News. Joel Harden, NDP MPP for Ottawa Centre, is going to be here just about after the 11:30 news today because we want to talk about what's happening with CUPE. There's been developments this morning in terms of that strike action by education workers in this province. We want to get a sense from Joel Harden what's happening from a Queen's Park perspective and from the opposition's perspective. So we're going to be speaking with Joel in a little bit. We wanted to spend some time today with Ray Joseph, wine expert and sommelier at the Coconut Lagoon, one of my favorite places. Hi, Ray.
Good morning, Sam.
Ray, I was there a couple of times since you've opened up that beautiful new restaurant. And of course, the one and only Chef Joe Thatungle's done a beautiful job there and welcomes in everybody to that beautiful restaurant. And you get one of the best jobs. You get to be the wine guy.
Sam, I like to think I have the second best job in Ottawa after yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. I do love my job. So tell me, because you have this beautiful, very unique wine cellar. Tell us a little bit about this.
I'd really like, very interesting, Sam. In terms of matching wine or pairing wine with Indian food, when I researched it, I found very little information online or in textbooks. So it was really fascinating to choose wines which would match, pair very well with the flavors of the restaurant. Mm-hmm. So we have a great array of white wines, the red wines, sparkling wines that really complement the flavors of our food and the dishes that Chef Joe serves.
It is incredible to see what's been done there. And of course, for those that aren't familiar, Coconut Lagoon had a tragic fire in May of 2020, rebuilt that restaurant, and it really is stunning. And when people are coming in, Ray, and looking for those recommendations, how do you work with people as a sommelier?
Great question, Sam. So one of the things I really try to do is take the intimidation out in terms of working with the sommelier. I really try to keep things as simple as I can. The thing about wine is it's all about personal preferences. So if you're related to fine art, you may like Van Gogh, I may like Monet. Doesn't make one person right and the other person wrong. So I always try to bring that approach, and I'll say to people, what type of wine would you buy at home? And it really gives me some indicators in terms of whether it's a white wine or a red wine. And based on what they tell me, I can determine if the wine is dry or maybe the wine has a little bit more sweetness in it. And I can work with that, and knowing which dishes that they're ordering for their dinner, I can really kind of pair a wine that is suitable. And it's really nice because at the restaurant, as you mentioned, it's very stunning. So I can give a sample or pour some so they can taste it. And I can usually see, just by looking at their faces, how they smile and how they enjoy the wine, whether it's one that's suitable for them. So it's an interesting process, but one that's really quite fun.
Well, your personality suits this position so well. How did you get to be a wine sommelier? How did you get to be doing this work?
Well, it's very interesting, Sam. I actually worked in the investment field for over 25 years, actually. I have an economics degree from Carleton University and was very happy working in finance. During the pandemic, I went to Tally Restaurant, Chef Joe's other restaurant that he has in Ottawa. And he mentioned that when he reopened the beautiful Coconut Lagoon, he was looking for a sommelier. So I had studied wine, and he felt that I would be a good fit, and I made the transition over. So a radical shift, and just really enjoying and loving what I do.
So going from investments to wine, I mean, that sounds like a bit of a dream for people that think that, they have to just do one career.
I think the pandemic actually kind of forced that change because so many things were happening about 2 years ago and during the whole pandemic, of course. But yes, I really thought I'd be retiring in that profession, in the investment management industry. And really delighted to do something that I really love and really passionate. I've always enjoyed fine dining, going to restaurants and wine pairings, and it's just a privilege to be working with Chef Joe, one of the greatest chefs in the city, and such a great human being as well.
Absolutely, he certainly is. I have a few favorite dishes there. So, would I basically, when I arrive there, I would be saying, I'm going to choose this dish, and here's some, kind of ideas of what I've liked in the past, and then you would recommend a couple. So I'll give you an example. One of my favorite dishes at Coconut Lagoon is the salmon. So where would we start there?
Right. So salmon is actually an interesting pairing, because if we go back many decades ago, we wouldn't think of a red wine or a rosé for salmon. But that kind of opened up. It started in Oregon in the U.S., where chefs started to pair spreads with salmon. With salmon, you want a lighter wine, Sam, so something like a Pinot Noir would work very well, or a rosé. So those would be my top two picks for something. When it comes to pairing wine with food, we don't want to have the wine be too dominant, where you're tasting the wine over the food. And of course, the contrast holds true too, where you don't want the food or the flavors of the food, and especially with Indian food, with curries, which may be quite strong, you don't want the flavors of the food to dominate the wine where you're not tasting the wine. So to your question, Pinot Noir is usually a go-to for salmon.
Well, that's fantastic. And, when I think about heading to Coconut Lagoon, or really any restaurant in this city, it's lovely to have somebody, on site that is obviously skilled in this area. Do people just arrive like I just described? Or are you doing tastings where people can sort of do a package?
Yeah. So Chef Joe introduced a chef's tasting menu, which is 6 courses that we have at Coconut Lagoon, and I'm delighted. The tasting menu changes every day at the restaurant, so I get the opportunity to pair the 6 courses with 6 different wines.
Wow!
And it's been incredibly well received, Sam. People just really, really have enjoyed it.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm going to be, you're getting me all hungry. It's just about lunchtime, of course. But I know that Coconut Lagoon, walk us through your new hours.
Yes. So Coconut Lagoon was previously open for lunch. As you may know, or some of the listeners, Chef Joe also has Cali Restaurant, which is open for lunch and for dinner. But when Chef Joe reopened Coconut Lagoon, he really wanted to make it more of a fine dining Indian restaurant, focusing primarily on the dinner service. So the hours would be 4. We take our last seating at 9:30.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, you are certainly inspiring me to get there very soon and experience everything that Coconut Lagoon is. Appreciate your time always, Ray. And, like I said, you've got a great job there. So we appreciate you sharing all those great details with us about wine.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Sam, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much. Ray Joseph joining us, wine expert, of course, sommelier at the Coconut Lagoon. If you haven't been to the Coconut Lagoon, not only is it delicious food, and Ray touched on it a couple times, Chef Joe is an incredible person in this community. He has won a number of awards, but the awards, he's very humble about them. But what really means something to Joe is that people in this city are fed, and he's done that in a number of different ways from a philanthropic perspective. We are blessed and we are richer in this community because of Chef Joe. When we come back, we're going to talk about all things CAA. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
You like what you see Hi guys, my name is Vi and I'm a part of Encore Ottawa 3. My set at the Meridian Theatre is coming out this week and I hope you tune in.
It's been 2 years later still.
Hello, I'm Liz Dowdswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. In 2008, carbon monoxide, a deadly invisible gas, killed an entire family in our province. That tragedy led to a new law requiring homes with potential CO sources to have alarms. John Gignac's family members passed away that day, and he shares his story to save others.
Please make sure you have working CO alarms in your home. Protect your family today.
My mother said we had to leave home. The communists were going to take my father away. If my parents were afraid, they didn't show us. But we would never forget our escape from Vietnam. We were lost.
And what was your job in Vietnam? University professor.
We had no home.
Do you have any family in Canada?
No, sir. Nobody wanted us.
Welcome to Canada.
Canada chose us.
Canadians open their borders, their homes, and their hearts to more than 100,000 refugees fleeing persecution after the Vietnam War.
We were home.
Bipolar disorder.
Substance addiction.
Bulimia.
OCD. Want to swap?
1 in 2, a flip of a coin. That's the same chance we'll experience a mental illness by the time we're 40. $1 a day can help change those odds.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, we're going to talk about all things CAA today, and I can't think of a better way to do this, of course, than on a day where it's a bit snowy and you're thinking, what am I going to do with insurance? Elliot Silverstein's joining us today, Director of Government Relations for CAA. Hi, Elliot.
Good morning.
Let's talk a little insurance, my friend. Walk me through CAA MyPace. I've heard this term. I need to know more.
Absolutely. So about 4 years ago, CA Insurance launched Canada's first only pay-as-you-go auto insurance program called CA MyPace. And what it is really tied to people's driving habits. So charge in 1,000 kilometer increments. As long as you're driving less than 12,000 kilometers a year on that vehicle, you're going to see considerable savings compared to a traditional policy.
So interesting. Is this for every insurance company, or is this new to CAA?
So this is specific to CAA. So this is a program that we had approved through the financial regulator in Ontario, and we are the only ones to offer this, which is a really unique pay-as-you-go program that is tied exclusively to kilometers driven.
So, Elliot, it's probably no surprise to you. People get a little bit nervous about shopping for insurance because it can be a bit mysterious for those that aren't in the industry like myself every day. So what should we be looking for and seeing if this is right for us?
The most important thing you can do is be as educated as you can be, and that includes talking to a broker or an agent to find the policy that is best suited for your lifestyle. So again, as I mentioned, CA MyPace is really designed for those vehicles that are driving less than 12,000 kilometers a year, but talking to people, talking to professionals is really important, and not leaving it to the last minute, because too often we wait for the renewals to come into place, and then you start thinking about, what am I going to do?
Right. And like I mentioned off the top, I mean, I can't think of a better day than talk about this than a day where I witnessed at least 3 or 4, different things happening on the roads today. And that's when you want to make sure that you have the right insurance.
Absolutely. And I think having that ability to talk to people, to customize it to your lifestyle is so important, because people are paying a lot in a lot of ways these days. And if there's ways to find savings on your insurance, let's look for that.
Is it just my imagination? I mean, I can only imagine people that potentially were working downtown or during this pandemic that our driving habits have changed a bit. I mean, I certainly, when I leave my street now, a lot of cars are still in their driveways, where I would say 3 years ago, it was pretty bare, right? So things have changed, right, in terms of our habits.
Things have absolutely changed, and I think that there's a different type of normalcy to how we're driving these days. And I think that really for a lot of people that are driving, let's say, 2 days a week to work and staying at home 3 days, they're not driving to the same levels they did a couple of years ago pre-pandemic. And that's why CA MyPace is such a great program, because it really is designed for those that are hybrid work employees, or those that are working from home full-time, where they're only using their cars primarily on the weekend. It really provides that type of savings, because while people's driving habits may have changed, the cost of insurance haven't.
Cost of insurance, absolutely. Very, very good point. What sort of went into the thinking here? Were you sort of, because it's often, and as you know, companies sort of think about what's best for their bottom line, but this sounds like something where CA went, I think there's a need here, and the consumer is going to actually be the beneficiary.
That's exactly it. We've seen over the years, and we did this pre-pandemic, was that people were leaving their cars to take transit on business days, and then they were using their vehicles more on the weekend, or there may be a vehicle that is used primarily in a home and a secondary car that isn't. And we tried to find a strategy that would be a solution to this. The pandemic itself has actually created a whole different perspective of this, as now people are working differently, driving differently. And, we've always been an organization that is focused on the consumer, and this is a way to really try and provide some savings for drivers if it fits their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. And I can think about, all different scenarios of why CA MyPace may work. Give us a couple that sort of come top of mind to you. I mean, I think about my mom, for instance, who's a senior, and I think about maybe people that are just learning to drive. Maybe they've only got a few years under their belts. They're not really driving a lot. And those are a couple that come to my mind.
Certainly. I mean, for seniors that are not driving as much, this is a way to really benefit them and reduce their costs, because, again, you're only being charged in 1,000 kilometer increments. So if it takes you 2 or 3 months to get to 1,000 kilometers, you're going to pay your annual base rate, and then the renewal components won't come up for a few months. It's also good for families that have multiple vehicles. So say you have a minivan that you drive on a regular basis, and a sedan you drive less. You may put your sedan on MyPace and pay less than you would otherwise. But the beautiful thing about MyPace is that even though you're paying in increments, you still get 100% of the coverage that you'd have in a traditional policy. So whether you're a hybrid worker, a student that's looking for an opportunity, or a senior perhaps that is driving less than they used to, this is a solution that may be suitable for you depending if you meet the criteria.
Really interesting. You mentioned something a couple of minutes ago, because I think we have, or I'll just speak for myself, I have this perception that I can only look at insurance renewals when it's coming due. So if I was to be, let's say, renewing every October, for instance, and I decided, okay, in August I wanted to look at something different, what does that do to the insurance I have in play already?
Well, there's a couple of things. Really, what it comes to, you want to start doing your shopping around before your renewal, because sometimes the breakage fee that an insurer may cost and they charge may be less than savings will be. So you still be saving money nonetheless. But you don't want it to last 30 days, because people get busy, things happen, and you just tend to roll it over. So talking to a broker or agent, getting doing homework in advance, at least if you may change before or the renewal date, have that seamless coverage.
Mm-hmm. Really important. Lots of great information here for sure. Where can we learn more, Elliot? And I also want you to share a little bit if people have questions, because I'm always a little bit nervous about this kind of stuff. I want to talk to someone. Is that possible?
Absolutely. The best thing to do is to either look at website getcaamypace.ca or call 1-888-900-1251 to get a quote. And in talking to one of the agents there, they can provide a lot of the information on CA insurance. If you're somebody who likes to talk to a broker, take a look at our website and find out which brokers are providing CA MyPace as an option, and ask the questions, because we really try to educate consumers. On our website, we have a guidebook that provides some simple descriptions of what goes into Ontario insurance, and really want to help people make the right choices.
It always makes me a bit melancholy and a bit reflective whenever I talk about CAA. I've shared this before on City News that my dad, who wasn't, he wasn't kind of the guy that would go to the shopping mall and buy a gift or do any of that, but he made sure every single year, he passed away in 2016, but every single year he would buy my CA membership. And as a young woman, I thought that was, so beautiful that he was always concerned about, obviously, like all dads and mums are, I guess, about me being on the road and making sure that I had what I need if something was to go wrong. But, it felt, although it was a membership for CA, it felt kind of like a little bit of a love gift, if you will. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but it really felt like it was love in a membership, if you will.
And we certainly hear a lot of those stories. We hear a lot of families where it's gifted because it provides that level of assurance that if you're ever in a situation, you have that card available to get to safety, and a lot of the perks that come along with the membership as well.
Absolutely. I'm a proud member, Elliot, and I had to use it actually recently. I had to use it because I'm embarrassed to tell you I locked my keys in the car.
And that happens very, very often.
I was a bit embarrassed to tell you that, but you've been very kind with me. I was very grateful for the CAA people to be there and to take good care of us. Really appreciate your time today and sharing about CAA MyPace. I learned a lot from you today. Elliot Silverstein joining us, of course, Director of Government Relations for CAA. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Learned a lot from Elliot today. Usually I'm, don't really chat about insurance a lot, so that was very helpful. When we come back in a little bit, Joel Harden's going to spend time with us today. It's a big day today. If you are part of any of the boards of which the strike action has been laid out, in 5 days, the CUPE education workers can go on strike. Joel Harden is going to talk to us about this. Of course, he's the NDP MPP for Ottawa Centre. It's a very busy news day today. We're trying to ensure we bring all that up-to-date information. We did hear from Laura Walton, who's also an educational worker and also president of CUPE for the Ottawa School Unions, Board of Unions. So we're going to be speaking with Joel Harden a little bit later, but Laura Walton shared some information earlier today. We're going to break that down with him. We're also going to speak with Sally McIntyre. She is the General Manager for the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority regarding the proposed changes from Bill 23. And then Wendy Boomer, my radio sister from Country 92.3, will be in the house. We talk about everything happening in the Valley, and with Wendy and I, you just never know what's going to happen. So you want to be with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
We're in infinity. Hi, my name is Isabel. I'll be performing as part of Encore Ottawa 3. I hope you can tune in and catch it on Rogers TV.
I'm Mallory, and I was walking home one night when an impaired driver hit me. He had been overserved in 2 bars before getting behind the wheel. If the servers would have called him a cab instead of serving him more alcohol, my life would be the same as what it used to be. I think servers play the biggest role in keeping us safe because it's up to them what state the person's in when they leave. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talk.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa storytellers. Each week, we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, November 16th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, under a winter weather travel advisory, it is -1. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The battle lines have once again been drawn between the union representing more than 50,000 education workers and the province. CUPE says talks with the province have broken down and they will not back down because they are fighting for the kids and the education that they deserve. City News Queen's Park reporter Richard Southern tells us what this means for parents and school-aged kids. But if that strike does go ahead on Monday, students in the Ottawa Catholic School Board, the Upper Canada District Board, the Catholic District School Board of Eastern Ontario, and both English language boards in Renfrew County will have to move to virtual learning. And the snow this morning has led to numerous cars sliding off roads. Several collisions have also been reported. The person responsible for clearing the snowfall is Bryden Denius in Ottawa. His advice to you this morning is to drive to the conditions and be careful on the roads. Denius says they are concentrating on salting the main roads, sidewalks, and bike path, and they'll do the residential roads after. Quebec health officials are warning that overcrowding in the province's emergency rooms is likely to worsen in the coming weeks as flu season takes hold. The province's top doctor says Quebec is facing a spiky cocktail of respiratory viruses that include COVID-19, influenza, and RSV. He says RSV accounts for a significant percentage of pediatric hospitalizations in the province as more kids who weren't exposed in the last couple of years are getting sick. City News time is 11:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, as you know, I'm a mom, and I'm a mom of a kid who goes to the Ottawa Catholic School Board. We've just received a note from them, and this is what it says. Possible strike action on Monday. Once again, a message from the Ottawa Catholic School Board. And I'm going to read this verbatim. CUPE, the union representing over 1,300 permanent and 700 casual OCSB employees, will legally be able to strike as of Monday, November the 21st. They will strike on Monday unless there is a settlement with the provincial government before then. This email is meant to keep you up to date on what we know. So there is lots more information there, but that just kind of gives you a bit of a taste. Joel Harden is going to join us, NDP MPP for Ottawa Centre. This is top of mind for Mr. Harden and, of course, everybody at Queen's Park. We're going to spend some time with him in a little bit. But first of all, I wanted to head to chat with Sally McIntyre, General Manager for Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. Hi, Sally.
Good morning.
Sally, when I say Bill 23 to you, what comes to mind?
I would say a variety of concerns. One that, of course, affects all of us in some shape or form will be the impacts on wetlands. Wetlands, as many people may know, act as natural sponges, and they protect a lot of our communities from flooding, and they also provide base flow during drought conditions. So they're really important piece of natural infrastructure that service our communities.
And we know the provincial government has proposed changes from Bill 23. Walk us through what this means.
Pardon me?
Walk us through the sort of the changes to the bill. So we know that my understanding is that homeowners, once again, as you mentioned, the wetlands is going to be a big part of this that would potentially, if these wetlands are left to be what they're supposed to be, which is protecting, that it will allow us to not have flooding, erosion, and landslides. But once again, my understanding is if this goes through, there's going to be a lot of problems for homeowners.
Yeah, exactly. So the province is proposing changes that would reduce the number and the extent of wetlands. And, a lot of people feel that we protect wetlands in particular, solely because of the natural systems, the endangered species and the like that live within them. But a lot of people don't recognize the critical role that they also play, as I said, from an infrastructure perspective. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, when we think of Ottawa, we have wetlands upstream of the community at Stittsville, upstream of Richmond, upstream of portions of Canada, upstream of Barrhaven, in Leitrim. And these wetlands are like sponges immediately upstream of these communities. And if we start to whittle away at them, because the province is removing certain elements that protect these wetlands today, then we're reducing our ability to protect these communities going forward. Now, the province would argue that it's put in compensation clauses that say, well, if you remove a wetland, you can somehow compensate elsewhere. But I would argue that it's extremely difficult to replace all those natural system functions that a 200-acre wetland that has 100-year-old vegetation is able to serve to our communities. Mm-hmm. So that would just be one example of some of the critical changes that the province is proposing in Bill 23.
And Sally, what are you hoping we'll do, knowing that this is in jeopardy, like you just described?
Well, what we're asking people to do is to contact their local MPP and the province and to do so immediately, because these changes are being put through very, very quickly. We expect them to be, in fact, enacted quite possibly maybe even before the end of this month or early next month. The province is working to a very short timeline, and they haven't allowed a lot of opportunity for public input. And, one has to wonder why they reduced this change the day after the municipal election, when municipalities across the province are in a state of flux and then ill-prepared to respond to such significant changes.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting timing, would you agree? Sally, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I said very interesting timing. Would you agree?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's hard not to observe it. Now, on the positive side, I would say that the conversations we've been having with our municipal partners have been very productive. They are responding, and in fact, 10 Eastern Ontario CAs have crafted a letter that we're going to be submitting to the Standing Committee, and already several mayors and reeves in Eastern Ontario have added their name to the letter that we intend to submit later this week.
Very interesting. We'll be following this really closely. Let's stay in touch, okay, Sally?
Thank you, Sam. Have a great morning.
My pleasure. Sally McIntyre spending time with us today, General Manager, Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. If you want to learn more about Bill 23, the time is now. We want to definitely be checking in with that. Speaking about checking in, we're checking in right now with Joel Harden, NDP MPP for Ottawa Centre. Hello, Mr. Harden.
Good morning, Sam. How are you?
Good. It has certainly been a busy news day, and I know it's been busy at Queen's Park today from the perspective of CUPE has indicated that they have now an illegal strike action, and they're going to potentially be going on strike as of Monday. The education workers, if the province doesn't get this done. What are your thoughts today? Feels like we've been here before, Joel.
Yes, I know. Do you have a sense of Groundhog Day?
I was just thinking that as I was describing it. I was like, yeah.
Well, look, I just want your listeners to be very clear about the stakes here because we need our schools open. Our kids need their beloved EAs, ECEs, custodians, library techs. But the government so far is spinning, and you can't spin forever. The workers are asking for $3.25 an hour. The province has at least a $2 billion surplus. These folks have gotten zeros for 10 years. We need to make the investment to make sure these folks who are helping our kids don't also use food banks. So we need people listening to pick up the phone, call the government, tell them to negotiate a fair deal. I don't think $3.25 an hour is too much to ask.
So why doesn't the government see the simplicity of the way you just described it? Is it really that simple, Joel?
I think it is. I mean, look, we have choices in politics about what we invest our money in. Billions of dollars are invested every year in Ontario in write-offs for large companies, taking executives and clients to Raptors games and Maple Leafs games. Like, literally billions are wasted in subsidizing already affluent companies and people. Or we could decide to give people who've had zeros forever, some of whom are using food banks, looking after kids on the autism spectrum, cleaning our schools, another $3.25 an hour from like an average of $39,000 a year to $42,000 a year. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's too much to ask, but I'm waiting for the adults to get into the room on the government side. I'm waiting for them to be more serious with the burden too.
Well, I described it this morning after the news conference with Laura Walton as ping pong. I mean, it just and the kids are being sort of in the middle of all of this. We know the Ottawa Catholic School Board, Joel. You know, my daughter goes there. We received some information from them just a few minutes ago, indicating about the potential strike. And it's the part about how will this affect your child's learning, and this is right from the school board, Ottawa Catholic School Board. If a strike occurs, all OCSB in-person students will move to remote learning on Monday, November the 21st. We'll do this because operating in-person learning without CUPE staff is unsafe. If the strike occurs, we will do our best to ensure that learning continues for all students. The problem here, Joel, you and I both know it, there's a lot of inequity. Not everybody has the internet. Not everybody has a tablet. The school board has worked hard to make sure this is happening. I'm just speaking about one school board. We know there's many affected, but this doesn't mean an equal opportunity for all kids. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. You're right. I mean, this can be resolved, Sam. That's the good news. If we were living in deep recession times where the government can make a case they couldn't afford it, we may be in a different situation. But I think, if I can be candid with you and your listeners, this is a moment for the male ego to take a bit of a climb down here. I think the Premier and the Education Minister thought they had the world by the tail and the majority government, and they could do whatever they wanted. They could tell people what they should make, threaten $4,000 fines on people. But folks stood up to them. And you know why I think they did that, Sam? These are the folks that diffuse conflict in our schools every day. They know all about bullying, and they aren't afraid of bullies. They want to bring the bully in, talk to them, de-escalate conflict. So this group of workers, 55,000 people in Ontario, they're not going to back down, and they shouldn't.
What I thought
because
was
your kid and my kids matter.
Absolutely, they do. And what I thought was really interesting is one of the quotes that came out of Premier Doug Ford, sort of as this has been going on, is, "Hey, folks," and I may not get this word for word, but you get the idea. "Hey, folks, I'm taking a little bit of water with my wine. Will you do the same?" The reality is, Joel, these people in many ways can't afford the wine.
Yeah, that's a great metaphor. I mean, look, the Premier gave, as I've told you on your program before, Sam, just to remember it for all of us, he gave 44 MPPs in the Tory caucus a $16,000 raise back in July. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty rich for him to talk about water in his wine, showering members of the government with huge pay raises. But he can't help the people looking after your child and so many of our kids. And I think Tom D'Amico putting out that statement for the Catholic Board, that says everything. Mm-hmm. Our schools can't function without these folks.
And
so we should invest in them.
And Joel, I've said this 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more times. I could never do those jobs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I could never do it. And I have friends that do it day in and day out. I've always had so much respect for the custodian staff. I mean, I couldn't do that job either. There are so many people doing these jobs that truly they do it because their heart is in it. And we're going to lose them. That's the other thing. I don't know if Premier Ford knows this job market is pretty tight. If he sees a lot of these people walking because they're looking for other jobs, we know there's other places for them to work, then we're going to be in a real pickle, a bigger pickle.
Well, this is why I'm trying here at the Ledge, Sam, when we're debating. We debated that bill, Bill 28, terrible bill, glad it got repealed. But one of the government members said in the debate, oh, these folks are doing all right. They get their summers off. And I met that person in the hallway and I said, you may be thinking about a different group of employees.
Right.
These are the folks that take EI in the summer. Most of them work on 10-month contracts. That's not getting the summers off. That's basically being told you can't have a full-time job, and we need them to have full-time jobs. Like, we need them to be properly resourced. So, look, good news is we can do the right thing, but parents, you guys need to speak up. You did before. If you do it again, we can push these guys to the table, get a good deal.
Let's get it done, Joel. Honestly, I hope the next time we speak, we're speaking about getting it done, and Premier Ford and Minister Lecce come to the table and get this done for not only education workers, which is obviously really important, but for our kids. Let's not be on strike on Monday.
Yep, absolutely.
Joel, thank you so much for your time. Joel Harden joining us, NDP MPP for Ottawa Centre. When we come back, it's the one, it's the only Wendy Boomer, and I've got big news about Wendy that I want to share with you. You will not want to miss it. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Un Chef, prendiamo un café. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
After a 2-year hiatus, we are back with brand new episodes of Celebrate Ottawa starting this fall. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that will entertain you and will even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grind, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
From coast to coast, all across Canada, there's something very special going on. It's time to show your support. Time to spread the word. Time to demonstrate your commitment to safe and sober driving. Join thousands of Canadians and tie a ribbon on something or someone you love. And take the time to have a real conversation about impaired driving. Mad Project Red Ribbon. Tie it, wear it, show it, share it, live it. Find out more at mad.ca.
Hi guys, my name is Vi and I'm a part of Encore Ottawa 3. My set at the Meridian Theatre is coming out this week and I hope you tune in. It's been 2 years later, you're still
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
talking about what's happening in the Valley.
Making sure you are in the know. Well, that's what they're supposed to do.
Let's see what happens. Here's what you need to know with Wendy Boomer on the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
Well, it's Wednesday, so you know what that means. Wendy Boomer is in the house, my radio sister from Country 92.3. You look gorgeous.
Oh, thank you, Sam. You always make me feel so
No,
pretty.
you do. You look beautiful. You are always up to some fantastic stuff. But before we talk about what's happening in the Valley, can I tell you what I did last night?
Yeah, what'd you do?
So I went to Broadway across Canada, to the NAC, and I saw Pretty Woman.
Another one I haven't seen.
So good.
You see way more musicals than me, and I thought I was a musical queen. How? Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah?
And I don't want to ruin it for anybody, of course, because I know all our listeners are going. But all those lines that you want to have in a movie about pretty, or like that you want to have in the
musical
play,
from the movie,
from the musical from the movie, are all there.
Okay.
So you're gonna love it.
Yeah. Is the jewelry like box thing, is it extra big?
It's awesome. I wish it was, though. It would have been fun if it was like really big. Yeah. But the cast was amazing. They were so much fun. There are a couple of people that steal the show. Why is that? When of course the main actors were fantastic, but there was a couple of scene stealers that were fantastic, and one of them is like the guy that opens up the show. You see him 7 or 8 different roles, and every single time everyone's so excited, we're all clapping that he was back again. Yeah, he was fantastic.
Again, that was the first role I ever actually got, but I wasn't able to do it. Was in Oshawa. Because I had to move, but was the role of ugly lady who pulls the curtain in The Producers.
Stop.
And I was so excited because
gosh.
I was going to steal that scene.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what's so funny is like when I was like, oh, Wendy's coming in today, and I saw Pretty Woman last night. I have to talk to her about it. It was lovely. It was lovely to see. It's just lovely to be back doing those kinds of things, and saw lots of people that I knew last night, which was really special. But the show was spectacular. So lots of people are going. It's running right through till Sunday.
I've got to go see one of those. It's just been, the last 2 weeks have been nonstop country shows for us. So
yes.
A lot at the Bronson Center. And we've got Luke Combs tomorrow night in town, which he brings pretty much all the country artists to town.
Exactly.
So that's a big one for us too. So it's been nonstop that way.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah.
You'll have to come because Alanis Morissette's music, Jagged Little Pill, is going to be turned into a musical. It is a musical, and it is going to be at the NAC through Broadway across Canada.
Okay. I'm going to have to check that one
go to
out
that
for sure.
one.
That's a good one. Thank you.
Okay, let's head to the Valley. Let's head to the Valley.
Well, I mean, let's be real. There's snow on the ground.
Oh, I noticed. Oh, my heavens. Oh, my heavens.
Ring ding ding-a-ling, ching ching ding-a-ling, doodle-doo.
Practice all morning for that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Giddy up. It's time to get into the festive season. And how better do you do that than go Christmas shopping?
Oh, yeah, baby. I'm all over that.
Right? I mean, if nothing reminds you to get your Christmas shopping done than a pile of snow when you wake up in the morning, I don't know what will. So I know those people who have always start early and they're already done. But I also know that those people are never really done.
Right.
They're like, okay, well, just one more farmer's market, right? So we've got a few different markets actually going on in the area. But the one that I'm excited about is just off Cedar View Road. And it's in the old log cabin.
I love that. Oh my! I go there and it is beautiful. It's a great location because you feel like you're sort of out of town, but you're not.
Right. And they always have vendors there, but they're switching this up for the next several weeks. So there's 50 new vendors every week. As well as the ones that you know and love there that are kind of regulars. So that's one of those things as well, that if you do go like you and you go often, this is a good season to go again because you'll see something new and different. So
I love that.
Yeah. So, of course, that Christmas Farmers Market is one that I would highly recommend to check out. I just wanted to mention it's at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for that one. So just a little bit different hours than some of the others. So
I'll have to get out of bed. That's
put
fine.
that out there. Yeah. And then I love this. Kelly's Flower Shop in Perth is actually doing a really cool outdoor urn workshop so that you can make your beautiful Christmas displays, and Christmas flowers. But then the following week, there's a Christmas wreath workshop and all these things. So where you might, usually maybe go to HomeSense or whatever, this is something that you can create yourself. And especially, there's a lot of people who, again, are very into this kind of thing. What a great gift idea.
100%.
Make the wreath yourself. It's something actually, my parents' anniversary is December 2nd, and I've always sent them a wreath for their anniversary. And
so
I try to kind of change it up, the theme, cats, Christmas,
I love
booze, whatever it might be on this wreath. But I thought, this is something different that I actually have never done. So I might actually check out this workshop myself and then make them the wreath. How special would that be?
Very nice.
But I'm also a little bit concerned. I think under Kelly's guidance, it'll be okay.
Well, I think that's what's great about having somebody to guide you, right?
Yeah.
Which is great.
Otherwise, it's going to be a macaroni wreath, and my parents will be like, "How old are you?"
Right. That would be my kind of wreath.
Right?
But yes, absolutely, 100%, 100%. And what did you do when you told your parents about your big award?
Oh my goodness! I only told them yesterday.
Okay, so tell us, because this is a pretty big deal, and I know you're really humble about it, but I have to share it with the world. So give us the deets.
Okay.
What award did you win?
It was the Radio Broadcasting of Canada Award with the Radio Broadcast Dialogue. And it was the award for Music Director of Medium Market.
Okay. So people that don't understand what a music director does, let's just say you do everything. Is that an easier way to sort of, would that be easy on a piece of paper? Music director, job description, everything, and then that's your job description.
Yeah, I will say because that's the most exciting part of my job is the music programming that I do. And I don't just do it for Country 92.3, I do it for a group of stations across the country.
100%.
And with those group of stations and the team that I have, I basically coordinate all of the artist interviews and all of those in-person things in multiple markets. And, but that's also why I love it, because that's, the opportunity to get close with these artists and get to know them personally and their teams.
And I will tell you, Wendy, that showed so much during the pandemic. Because you could take what you do on radio and you do it so beautifully and being connected and have relationships, true friendships with a lot of these artists across the country. So what ends up happening? They step up for you during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you were able to create, as you have in such a beautiful way, around Country 92.3, more community, giving people things to do.
Yeah.
So that's when radio becomes more than radio, and you've done that beautifully.
Well, thank you so much.
You win every award. If I could give you every award, I would.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. I'm just about finished my Christmas shopping because I don't have a lot to do this year because we're moving. So basically, I said to my daughter, for Christmas, there's a new house.
Yeah.
So there you go. But I have a little bit left to do. How are you in terms of your shopping?
Oh, I am December 24th.
Oh, fantastic.
That is kind of my MO. I'm the worst. I always think about it, but then I never get to it.
Right.
So, and I go on websites and I put things in carts, but I never check out.
I would love to know the stats of how many businesses have things in carts that are just sit there forever.
And then I'm like, oh yeah, that thing. And I go back to that at the beginning of December and they're like sold out. Yeah. Or yes, arriving December 2025. Right. And you're like, cool. Oh, I did that so well. So, but I think at this point, we just need to ask Santa for what we need anyway, right?
I love that.
There's a lot of Santa Claus parades happening this weekend. I know Santa's coming to Kempville.
Wow,
this
cool.
weekend. So excellent. You can put in your request with him and then that's usually where I start.
He's super busy because then he's going to be in Barhaven too.
Yeah.
So he's a busy guy.
Yeah. It's a very busy weekend.
Just about as busy as Wendy Boomer, but she still makes it in here every Wednesday. Wendy Boomer, of course, from Country 92.3, my radio sister. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When we come back, it is Lunch with Sam. We are feasting on those top news stories of the day. Come back and have lunch with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another double because someone called in sick. What makes the job tough is the moment you realize a customer has had enough, and you have to make that decision not to overserve. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law. We know it's not easy, but we're counting on you to keep us all safe. Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
There we go. Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Hi, my name is Isabel. I'll be performing as part of Encore Ottawa 3. I hope you can tune in and catch it on Rogers TV.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, November 16th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Onime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, light snow, -1. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The new rounds of talks between the province and the union representing thousands of education workers have broken down again, and it could mean a strike by Monday. Now, in the Ottawa area, the affected schools by that strike will be in the Ottawa Catholic School Board, the Upper Canada District Board, the Catholic District School Board of Eastern Ontario, and both English language boards in Renfrew County. And here's City News Queen's Park reporter Richard Southern with what CUPE and the Ford government are saying.
And next Monday, CUPE has issued a new strike notice, this one for November 21st, after talks fell apart. The two sides actually found common ground on wages. But CUPE's Laura Walton says this new strike notice is coming because the government refused to invest in extra services that the union wanted.
This government refused to put a single cent into new student services. We wanted early childhood educators in every kindergarten class. We wanted EAs supporting not just students with special needs, but having the appropriate time to do so.
Education Minister Stephen Lecce.
We have put forward multiple improved offers. CUPE has rejected all of these improved offers.
Just to be clear, there is or there is not back to work legislation in the works, sir?
The government is going to stay at the table to get a deal. That is our obligation. That is our focus. We want a negotiated settlement with the union.
At Queen's Park, Richard Southern, City News.
And the group Acorn is set to hit the picket lines across the province this Friday. Acorn members are fighting against the PC government's new housing bill, which aims to build 1.5 million homes in Ontario in the next decade. The group says the Ford government's plan is a quest to build more unaffordable homes faster, and they're not standing for it. The rally against what they call demevictions is scheduled for 9 a.m. Between 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Steve Clark's riding in Brockville. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Snow will be with us until about 5 o'clock this evening, then just a chance of a few flurries. Our guaranteed high +1 today. Some areas could see as much as 8 centimeters of accumulation. -4 for the low. Tomorrow, chance of flurries and +1. And Friday, more flurries mainly in the morning, high near 2. For today, we're under a winter weather travel advisory. Our guaranteed high +1.
City News Time, 12:03. The inflation rate stayed steady for October at 6.9%. And while there are hopeful signs that food prices increases may be slowing, it may take a long time before our food bills level up. Here's City News parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney.
You'll still get sticker shock buying your cauliflower or asparagus. In October, grocery prices were 11% higher than they were a year ago. However, that's nearly 0.5% lower than the growth we saw in September. It's a positive sign for many of us struggling to pay our grocery bills, and that slowdown trend in prices is expected to continue, according to Pedro Antunes, the chief economist for the Conference Board of Canada. However, he tells City News, unfortunately, it will not be a sudden drop.
But it takes a while before all of that flows through the entire food manufacturing, transportation, wholesale, and retail. So before all of that gets through, it'll take some time.
Gas prices, however, did rise last month, and that may offset some of the reductions that we're seeing with food due to the increase in transportation costs. The cost of living is a top concern for Canadians as inflation erodes purchasing power and pushes the Bank of Canada to boost interest rates. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
I am Damilola Unime. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's lunchtime, everyone, and welcome to Lunch with Sam. This is where we get together with political leaders, community leaders, business leaders, and talk about the news of the day. And it is my pleasure to welcome to the lunch table today Lindsay Maskell, Liberal strategist and former advisor to Dalton McGuinty, and Walter Robinson, former City of Ottawa executive and political commentator. Hello to you both.
Hello.
Thank you
Good
so
morning.
much for being here. And of course, on the minds of so many people today are masks. We're at it again, Lindsay, talking about masks, in particular, talking about masks in schools. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is just a tough challenge, right? Because I know our children's hospitals especially are entirely overwhelmed. But we also have this political challenge of masks being fairly unpopular right now, people being very tired of the pandemic and wanting to turn the page on that. And then also the part where we know that this can help. But compared to during the pandemic, what's happening right now, we don't have modeling for the way that we did during the pandemic, knowing that, by doing this action, I'm going to have, we're going to be helpful, and here's the numbers that back that up. Mm-hmm. So it's a tough challenge to make it politically palatable right now, but I do believe it's really necessary.
It is really an interesting debate for sure. Walter, what are your thoughts?
I would agree with Lindsay's take. I mean, it's just you're between the rock and the hard place right now in terms of public fatigue. But people need to understand that pandemics last 1,000 days or longer, and we're in like wave 8 or wave 9, and this triple threat of influenza and RSV, which particularly attacks and our younger citizens, our children, are vulnerable to it. It's a tough space. My question is, if you enforce a mask mandate, what if it is not followed? And I think that's, unfortunately, that's where a level of the population is. And then you have a bunch of other people saying you want, and some of the leading experts, we need to have the kids in schools. This socialization break for 2 years of learning by the Brady Bunch and Teams and Zoom screens has been hard on teachers and hard on kids. But then half the experience is the facial expression, is the learning. Where is kind of the cutoff here? And then that's overlaid on look at the issues around CHEO and sick kids and other children's hospitals around the country opening up secondary ICU wards or using adult hospitals given just the massive overflow. It's not an easy answer. I mean, I hope people are encouraging their kids to wear masks. I was at the grocery store this morning, double masked up with my nice cloth mask and my N95 underneath. But I think if you go down the mask mandates in schools, we're back to hybrid learning, because I think there'll be parents who pull their kids out.
It's going to be so interesting, because I spoke a little bit earlier with the new chair of the Ottawa Carleton District School Board, and that's Lyra Evans from Zone 6. And Lyra, I asked her that very question, Walter, about, how do they mandate this? And they likened it to basically if a kid was caught smoking in school and didn't put the cigarette out, that there would be that escalation in terms of discipline. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. especially as you mentioned with students and parents. You know, Lindsay, we had a very big day, as you know, yesterday here in the province of Ontario, particularly here in City Hall in Ottawa. We were all eyes on the new mayor, Mark Sutcliffe, and new council. What do you think that this new day will bring?
Well, it's always nice to hit that restart button on new councils, right? And you could feel that optimism despite the snowstorm we woke up to this morning in Ottawa. You can kind of feel that good energy and some hope of some improvements, particularly in transit issues and some obviously ongoing police challenges and things that we need to address. So it's the kind of that hope of a new start and a fresh brand. And, you know, the exciting thing for Ottawa is, of course, having somebody that comes out of communications and just sort of that better clarity, right? One of the big issues we've had through the pandemic in the last couple of years and challenges is just people knowing where they stand. Lots of communication errors made by all levels of government through everything from the pandemic to protests. So it's a nice time to hit a bit of a reset button, but unfortunately that administratively also slows some things down, right? And people putting their own touch and branding on things. And I know my colleague comes out of the municipal world, and my mom was the mayor of my hometown, so I do know there's that thing of sometimes the reset also means restarting things and relearning things. And so it's an exciting opportunity, though, and I'm really happy to have seen. I spend a lot of time in Ottawa, but I also live in Toronto, and it's nice to see some progressive councillors having been elected, and hopefully some good changes for our communities.
For sure. Well, the one thing we have in common, Walter, is we both worked for mayors. I worked for Mayor Mary Pitt back in the day for the city of Nepean, and of course you worked for Ottawa Mayor Larry O'Brien. And Lindsay brings up a really good point that, you know, when people are learning these jobs, wanting to put their own special touch on them, if you will, to sort of brand them their own, it can be a whole new world, right, Walter?
It is, and the municipal level of government can be the most interesting, the most impactful on people's daily lives, but it is so different from the federal and provincial structures that we all learn in high school civics or even in university poli-sci courses, and it can be a very petty place. And I agree there's great optimism and everybody's smiling faces and trying to work together and move beyond kind of this Watson Club, non-Watson Club, this cabinet style of government that worked for Jim Watson for 2 terms, but not for the last term that we had for the last 12 years. The challenge is not only are there new people learning their roles and understanding City Hall, procedure, committees, agenda setting, but there's some fundamental files that this council has inherited that hasn't happened in the past. The transit, we're going to see the report out of the inquiry shortly. There are still lawsuits in transit. There are issues around the urban plan. There's issues around provincial legislation. And now Mayor Sutcliffe talked about a 100-day task force on mental health and substance use and addictions, and a few other things in terms of the line-by-line review, looking for savings on consultants and travel. And all those things you need to back end and accelerate now into getting a budget into the December timeframe within 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah. You can push if you need to into January, but people don't like to do it. You'd like to have a budget pass and have a mayor's state of the city address at the first or second council meeting in January. So they have a variety of files here in the morning of our first snowstorm. Hopefully it'll all melt away. But they need to deal with that. Other councils have had more luxury and time to learn. This council does not have that time, and we're like Toronto and many other major municipalities in Ontario. We have deficits that need to be funded, or we go into more debt, and the city's debt has tripled in the last decade. And if I can say one positive thing on all that Debbie Downer, Walter Weiner riff and review, taking out the sunshine that we had from Lindsay, if there's one positive thing in terms of my drive this morning, and I now live downtown, lots of people complain. I've been in many other major urban centers. Ottawa is one of the best cities in North America for dealing with snowstorms in terms of our public servants and the private contractors that have to work well together. And it was a relatively effortless commute this morning, although people still have to learn how to drive again and give like 3 times more distance for braking, but that's just my pet peeve.
There you go. You needed to sneak that in. I don't mind that. That's okay. And you know, as Walter, you were describing everything that the new council, and of course that means all the new staff are going to be dealing with, all those political staffers, you had me thinking to myself, oh, I'm heavens to Betsy, I'm so glad I'm not in one of those jobs right now, because they are busy. As you know, they are 24/7, very, very busy jobs. Before we go to break, now I know we're on our lunch break, so this may not be very appetizing. But Donald Trump has announced that he has officially put his name in for the 2024 presidential bid. This is not from the Beaverton or the Onion. This is true. Lindsay, what are your thoughts?
Well, I actually watched the coverage. I was sort of fascinated of the, Tiffany Trump wedding turn, announcement and sort of the way that family operates. This is, there's many people in the Republican Party and all over the world after this past week and a half with the primaries and the results not pleased about this. But it's a very expected Trump-style thing to try to, say to block out DeSantis and say early he's in and just, cause the media storm that may prevent any challengers. I don't mean to be ageist, but if you think about 2024, he will be a very old man. So it's kind of shocking that he wants to do this, and it's interesting to watch the split in the Republican Party, particularly when people he backed in the primaries and governor races, et cetera, just were not successful, right? So his support did not pan out over the last couple of weeks for those Republican candidates that shared a stage with him. So I think that they'll have a lot of thinking to do about their path forward and if he will be their candidate of choice.
Well, I guess it really doesn't matter because I don't know how old his ego is. Over to you, Walter. What are your thoughts?
Well, let me tell you the people who are happiest about his announcement last night. The writers at Saturday Night Live and everybody from Jimmy Kimmel to Jimmy Fallon, they are so happy because it's been a dull 2 years of President Biden, and now things will get exciting again. And they basically don't have to write anything. Donald Trump writes his own comedy. Let's be very clear. But in all seriousness, I think there is a big fight now for the soul of the Republican Party in the context of not only Ron DeSantis, who has emerged in the last 2 years as a much more credible challenger and a much more articulate challenger for the new face of the GOP. Former Vice President Mike Pence has a book out there. Mike Pompeo is talking about former Secretary of State. There are still rumors that Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina and former UN ambassador United States ambassador to the UN in the first 18 months of Trump's presidency, may be mounting a bid. So he will not have an uncontested run to the White House and be able to run roughshod over the 14 or 16 competitors that he did in 2015, 2016. He has announced earlier, and he still has a good deal of money and a good deal of kind of the election deniers, the old Tea Party, which has become part of the base of the GOP, plus I think a fractured kind of Christian conservative base in the Republican Party. It will not be an easy race for them. And I think the Republican Party needs to figure out, do they choose sanity or lunacy? That is their choice in terms of being competitive against a Biden-Harris ticket again, or a Kamala Harris or something else. Or do they basically continue to fracture the American populace? I think there's an opportunity here for the Republican Party chooses a more sensible candidate that we could see some, I think, important healing and more elevated discourse in American politics, which would be good for the world.
Well, maybe Trump is sort of looking ahead, thinking he gets back in again. He's still got all those files at home. When we come back on Lunch with Sam, Lindsay Maskell, Walter Robinson will be here. We hope you are. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. That was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, prendiamo un café. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
Sometimes it's hard to say goodbye to an old friend. But when you're saying farewell to your vehicle, Kidney Car makes it fast and easy. Just call or visit our website. We'll take any vehicle in any condition and give you a tax receipt for a minimum of $300. No headaches and no towing charges. It's the one-stop solution for getting rid of your unwanted vehicle in just a few short minutes. When your vehicles reach the end of the road, call us toll-free or visit kidneycar.ca.
What do I like? I like open fires, moonlit nights, chatty letters, rainy days. I like daydreaming. I love this colorful little island of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. Yet often my dark moods come. I'm possessed body and soul by this depression. They say women shouldn't write. Some days I almost give up. But I cannot contain my imagination. I made Anne real. I gave her my love of nature, my love of books, and my childhood dreams. My greatest happiness would be to climb the alpine path and write upon it a woman's humble name.
Lucy Maud Montgomery battled depression, rejection, and sexism to become known around the world for Anne of Green Gables and 19 other novels.
What is it?
Anxiety disorder.
Depression.
I'm clear.
PTSD. 1 in 2. A flip of a coin. That's the same chance we'll experience a mental illness by the time we're 40. $1 a day can help change those odds and bring hope to those in need.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
There's someone there. I want to know what they're saying. I was listening very closely to Brenda Lucki, of course, Commissioner for the RCMP yesterday, and boy, she had a lot to say.
Well, generally speaking, I mentioned it earlier, is our goal, and especially from my point of view, was how can we help Ottawa Police Service succeed in this occupation of downtown. And so now we're into the second weekend. Of course, there's not much we can do during that weekend because the numbers have grown exponentially. So I think, first of all, when they first came on the very first weekend, people assumed that they would, the convoy would come into town, they had an agenda, they'd follow their agenda, and then they would leave. And when that didn't happen, and we got into the second weekend, we didn't, from my point of view, we weren't expecting that, for them to stay that long. And now it's, they're creating infrastructure, they're disabling vehicles, so now they're there for which appears to be a longer term. So instead of reducing the footprint, which is always our goal in protest, to reduce the footprint so that if you do go into enforcement action, you can do it the safest way possible with the least amount of resources. It was increasing exponentially. So of course, people were losing confidence in the OPS's ability to deal with the situation.
Losing confidence in the OPS. Did that surprise you, Walter?
No, it doesn't surprise me. What I found fascinating is that Commissioner Lucki was very busy. She was on text chats with some of her policing colleagues. She was texting in Zoom and commenting in Zoom meetings and other things, and then waiting to brief various cabinet ministers in the context of questions they may have had in the context of civilian oversight of policing. So she was a very busy woman. In terms of the thing that strikes me still, and it's not I told you so, but if you don't understand the lessons of history, you're doomed to repeat them. Two things. One, confidence in the police service and confidence in the Ottawa Police Service specifically, we already seen in terms of some of the real challenges of incident commanders, line of command, and alignment on execution strategies during this occupation for 3 weeks. But in 1991, truckers came here and stayed here for a week in May. Like, this wasn't the first time truckers put their rigs on Wellington and stayed. And secondly, it still stretches my mind that people would drive for 4, 5, 6, and 7 days. We're asked from across the country, from west, from east, and from north, we're asking hotels to say, what's my rate for 21, 30 days? And everybody thought they would just come for 48 hours and go home. It stretches credibility. This is the real challenge. And one more thing to say on this. We're going to figure out what happened, but these commissions to inquiry don't cast blame. They try and take a look at failures and suggestions for the future. Let's think about this in terms of how this ended. We were able to bring policing resources in from around the country and around the province, put them up, house them here, and they eventually kind of squeeze the protest out with whether you needed the Emergencies Act or another question. That's what this commission will decide. Imagine if this happens in a place where we can't stage policing on major rail lines, major infrastructure. This is something that I hope people in the public security world are thinking about, because you can rest assured that these insurgent movements and terrorist groups took note of this to say, there are ways you can very easily attack critical infrastructure and bring a nation to its knees. And let's be clear, this brought the city to its knees. It did not stop the government of Canada from functioning. Right. The Windsor Bridge was much more detrimental to our Canadian economy. There are still many lessons to learn, and we are still so vulnerable. That's what I really fear, and I'm not sure if this inquiry is going to get at that.
It's so interesting that Walter brings that up, Lindsay, because we kept thinking here, certainly myself and my producers, because we heard that they were going to be here for a very long time. So is this an issue of intelligence? Because honestly, I don't think I'm that smart, but I knew it was going to be longer than a weekend.
Yeah, I think we all did. And, it was interesting. I had an event last night on Wellington, and I was walking down the street just sort of still in shock that could have happened. Because, again, in other jurisdictions and other cities, it was like, you are welcome to come and protest in this specific space, but you're not allowed to stay overnight here. And then it dissolved, right? So with any community to not have a clear crisis response plan, clear rules of jurisdiction, it's unbelievable to me still that this happened. And I do appreciate seeing how busy she was in trying to intervene and collaborate amongst all of these other parts, particularly while our premier was off snowmobiling, that this was a priority number one for her. And I appreciated hearing, her standpoint in her testimony. But it really is concerning about the lack of information, the lack of information sharing, and just not understanding the clear division of roles and setting the rules early. So, and I share Walter's concern in the sense that, to know that you can disrupt something in that way is knowing that you can do this in other areas, could potentially do this in other areas. So needing to have a real plan and straighten this out and have a report so that we can know that this isn't going to happen in things that would affect major transportation of goods, food, services, and really affect our economy more than it did last winter.
It's so interesting because, like you said, we're obviously going to find out at the end, was the Emergencies Act, warranted or not? I mean, that's the goal. I think sometimes we've lost sight of what the goal of this inquiry is, because there's been such a strange line of questioning from so many different angles. But the bottom line is that at the end of the day, that's why we're here. But I think what's come out of it, which has been shocking to the public, is about the lack of collaboration. I have enjoyed my lunch with you, collaborating with both of you. Thanks so much for spending time with us on City News.
Thanks, Sam.
Lindsay Maskell joining us.
And hopefully the Trump stuff didn't make people throw up their lunch.
Hopefully not. I haven't had lunch yet, and that's exactly why. Lindsay Maskell joining us, Liberal strategist and former advisor to Dalton McGuinty. Walter Robinson, former City of Ottawa executive and political commentator. It was a lovely lunch, all things considered, even though we talked about, potentially another run at the presidential seat by Donald Trump. When we come back, it's the business lunch. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrive Alive smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Isabel. I'll be performing as part of Encore Ottawa 3. I hope you can tune in and catch it on Rogers TV.
Local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Wednesday, November 16th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it is -1, and here's what's making news this hour. Parents with school-aged kids thought the threat of a strike was over, but now contract talks between Ontario's education workers and the province have broken down again. CUPE has filed another strike notice, giving the Ford government until Monday to reach a deal before a full strike gets underway. Now, the union says it reached middle ground with the government on wages, but the notice of a potential province-wide strike comes after what it calls a refusal to invest in the services that students need and parents expect. Now, if the strike goes ahead on Monday, kids in schools in the Ottawa Catholic School Board, the Upper Canada District Board, the Catholic District School Board of Eastern Ontario, and both English language boards in Renfrew County will have to move to remote learning. The MPP for Ottawa-Vanier, Lucille Collard, has introduced a bill that, if adopted, would restrict the use of the notwithstanding clause in future legislation. It was used this month by the province to prevent a challenge to a bill which forced a contract on CUPE workers and prevented them from a court challenge. The bill calls for the use of the notwithstanding clause to be limited so it is not used casually or on a regular basis. And a Canada-wide test of the National Emergency Alert System is set to take place this afternoon. You can expect test alert messages on the telly, on the radio, and compatible wireless devices like your mobile phone at 12:55 p.m. The message will indicate that the alert is a test and does not require any action. City News time is 12:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, welcome to the Business Lunch. We talk about all things business. We talk a little money. We talk about talent and sometimes the lack of talent. And people are trying to find and fill really important positions in this city. We talk about supporting local. We talk about bringing new business to this community. And we've talked, of course, with business leaders. And one of them now is Su-Ling Ching, CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. Hi, Su-Ling.
Hi, Sam.
I love the Business Lunch because I think the focus on business for this half an hour a day is just a drop in the bucket of what we need to do to ensure that businesses in this community feel supported. It's a little thing we can do here on City News, but I think it's an important one. And you have been so good about sharing all those perspectives that you have, certainly from the seat that you sit in, which was a big one, President and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade.
Well, I thank you, Sam, and we really do appreciate you bringing some focus to businesses in our community through the show. And it's not just about what we can do to support business, when absolutely all of us should be thinking about how we can support business. And particularly at this time of year, we know it's a big shopping time of year, and an opportunity for a lot of businesses to gain some headway. So I want to get that shop local message out right away, but also to talk about why businesses are so important to every other aspect of our community.
Well, I think,
because I think the economy drives our social, our cultural landscape as well.
Beautifully said, because I think behind the businesses are people. And I think sometimes what happens is we think business and we think about these big giant towers, but we forget that there's people inside them, right, that are supporting all the things that you just talked about. Let's talk a little bit about this upcoming holiday season and how important it is for us to, if we haven't for the last couple of years, actually physically gone out shopping, to walk through the doors of those businesses that are in our neighborhoods and in other neighborhoods surrounding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've always been proponents of the buy local, even more so through these last 3 years, where we were very conscious about how challenged our local small independent businesses were, and understood the power of our consumer dollar, and it has the ability to shape our communities and our neighborhoods. And so we really encourage everyone to be mindful of where they're spending their money, particularly at this time where a lot of businesses are still recovering from the pandemic measures.
What are you hearing from business leaders that are members of the Ottawa Board of Trade right now in terms of the recovery? I'll call it that.
Well, Sam, as you know, we are still facing many challenges over and above the measures taken for COVID, and how that impacted businesses' ability to generate revenue. There's also been a shift in how our business community is functioning. Particularly, there continues to be challenges in attracting the proper talent, the proper labor for all kinds of sectors. And so as we build our community as a great place to visit and invest, it's also, we need to be mindful of building a community where people really want to live. The talk of recession, inflation, supply chain issues, these are all things that as economic developers and as business leaders that we need to be mindful of, and making sure that we leverage every opportunity that we have to work together to harness our collective resources and to have a strong vision for the future of Ottawa.
Such an important conversation. And it was a big day. We spoke about this a little bit earlier on Lunch with Sam, but, we see a new, obviously a new mayor and new council around that table. And of course that, all smiles yesterday. We hope they stay all smiles, Su-Ling. It's certainly a new day and a new dawn. But, when you think about how you're going to have conversations with those 25 people, where do you start making sure that they also understand the importance of business in this community?
Yes. Well, thank you for asking that. And Sam, we have a lot of challenges in front of us, But there's no reason not to stay all smiles because we have just as many opportunities. And so with a fresh perspective, we have an opportunity to forge a new way of working together, to identify what our key priorities are for Ottawa, and to rally everyone behind that messaging. So we will be reaching out, obviously, to the new mayor and council. They've all already declared that they're anxious to work with our business community and look at what the next version of Ottawa will be.
Mm-hmm. And yesterday was an important conversation as well. You had released the support behind the Ottawa Senators moving to LeBreton. And there's just so many layers to this. Of course, the plan was for them to go to LeBreton. It fell through. We know in June of this year, the plan is to head back to LeBreton. We know there's potentially some new owners of the Ottawa Senators around the corner. So there's lots of really interesting sort of dynamics going on when it comes to our hockey team. But from a business perspective, and we all know cities that do this really well, and we want to be in that list, Suling, of cities that do this really well and create these entertainment hubs, right?
Yes, 100%. And, you know, we just have come through this municipal election. We had invested in what we called the Build Up Ottawa initiative. And these kinds of innovative infrastructure investments, we believe, will create a strong foundation and a long-term strategy for growth. And so that was why we wanted to declare our support for that concept. We know that it would have a great economic benefit for the entire city and specifically to draw more vitality to our downtown core, which is so critically important to a world-class city like Ottawa.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Speaking of world-class, you know, the Bobs are right around the corner. And those people that may not be familiar with the Bobs, of course, Better Ottawa Business Awards. Are you all ready for the big night?
We're all ready. So we're happy to be back in full swing. We'll have our first full gala since the pandemic started at the Westin Ottawa. And yesterday, I don't know if you saw that we announced the final recipients for the Best Ottawa Business Awards. And we believe it's a really important program for Ottawa. I always like to say what gets recognized gets repeated. So these winners often we're able to highlight them. They serve as an inspiration. They're stories for other businesses and for the community at large. And so we're looking forward to having huge success in being able to honor all of those who are striving toward excellence.
Mm-hmm. It's such a beautiful event. I know I attended, I believe, in person in 2019, and it was incredible. There was such a great vibe in that room, and it was just, you know, to have, I think there was 800 people or something at that time in the room, and it was just it was wonderful to see the variety of people, and there was you know, people that had been in the community for years, and there was a lot of fresh faces as well, receiving awards and recognition, and such an important time. I have to ask, just as, you know, I'm thinking about all the things that get done by the Ottawa Board of Trade. Are there still opportunities? Is there only one sort of time a year to become a member? Or if someone's listening right now, they think, oh, I would like to become a member of that and sort of be on top of all the things that Suling's talking about today?
Well, thank you for asking that, Sam. As you well know, because we talked about it at length last year, and I think we're going to do that again in January this year about the update of the Board of Trade. But we are the official liaison to the city and to every level of government for the Voice of Business in Ottawa. And we are an independent, nonpartisan, and not-for-profit organization. And so we are driven completely by membership. And aside from providing resources, many of our members are also expert volunteers in the world of economic development and business scale-up. And so we invite every business in Ottawa, no matter what sector or what size, to be involved as a member.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. I'm sitting here thinking about, we were talking about Christmas a little bit earlier with another guest, and I'm thinking about all those different communities to shop local as well, right? A lot of those members are in these communities. I'm thinking about, Hintonburg and Manotick and, in the East End and obviously Wellington. I mean, there's just so many different places now to have experiences and do some Christmas shopping and support local and support some of those members that obviously support the Ottawa Board of Trade as well.
Absolutely. And, I think we need to think about how we're supporting these businesses in our neighborhoods and then how they contribute. Sam, those are the people that employ our family members that contribute to community causes and generate the unique ability of neighborhoods to thrive and prosper.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. As always, thank you, Suling, for spending time with us here on City News. Let's get caught up. I know you're always up to something, so let's keep in touch, okay?
Thank you, Sam. Have a great day.
Suling Ching, President and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade, joining us today. When we come back, it's the business lunch. You know what goes really nice with the business lunch? A little cheesecake. We're going to tell you about the business of cheesecake when we come back on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, some people used the A word. They called it an accident, but it wasn't. An accident implies that no one was at fault. But when someone impaired by alcohol and/or drugs chooses to drive, they're fully responsible for the crash that can result. So please, for the memory of my brother DJ and the thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by impaired drivers, let's drop the A word.
A crash caused by impaired driving is not an accident.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patiti, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, prendiamo un café. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, just because it's the business lunch doesn't mean we can't talk about something sweet, and that's where Paige Morgan comes in, owner and operator of Meemaw Cheesecake. Hi, Paige.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. So you were the most popular person here yesterday at City News, even though you don't work in the building, because you delivered us beautiful cheesecakes, little individual cheesecakes, which were amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Good.
They were very, very good. So tell me how it all started, Paige.
Yeah. So during COVID, I'm sure it affected so many people in so many ways. I worked in a restaurant and was one of the unfortunate and also lucky to have been laid off. And during my layoff, I was gifted with quite a bit of cream cheese from our menu as it was going to go bad. And I decided to take the time. I've always loved cheesecake. I've always loved baking. To take the time and make my own recipe, a handcrafted recipe, something that I knew would be good for my family, something that would help the taste buds of everyone that I love. And after about a year of testing that recipe, I came up with one that I loved, and I started sharing with friends and family, and eventually got to the point where I could start giving them to others and letting other people enjoy this amazing recipe that I've happened to create it.
It is absolutely delicious. Incredible.
Good.
So you
Thank
came
you.
up with lots of different types. Like when I came in, the newsroom was buzzing, of course, because we don't get cheesecake here, right? So when we looked and we saw these beautiful little individual cheesecakes, there was lots of different kinds. So how important is it for that variety to be there from a business perspective?
Yeah, well, first, thank you. I do try really hard to make them as gorgeous as possible. A lot of it started, I just wanted a little bit of variation. Whenever I would personally go to a grocery store or a bakery to find cheesecakes, because my family loves cheesecake so much, it was difficult to find various options, something that would please everybody at the table. You know, I have my dad that loves fruit, I have my mom that loves chocolate, and my brother and I will just kind of eat anything sweet. So trying to please everyone, I really wanted to make that an easier option for people. So almost every flavor I come up with, it either has a story behind it or a history or a reason behind why I made it, whether it's a memory I had or a person in my life that loves that flavor and I created it for them. Every flavor has a story.
Beautifully said. What's it like to be in the business of cheesecake? What's the business side like?
It's interesting. I just started this year, so I'm still very fresh and still getting used to everything, and still I'm learning so much about business and just I think the community aspect is probably the best part so far is how much community will come out to really support local and support a story, and once they get to know you, it's just amazing to see familiar faces come back and encourage you every week.
Because there is that relationship side of business, right? I mean, that's why we keep going back to the same restaurants we love. It's why we keep ordering from Mima, right? It's all of those types of things. So I have to ask, the name Mima Cheesecake. So the only time I've ever heard the word Mima, you're going to laugh at me, is because I watched The Big Bang Theory with my daughter, and Sheldon calls his grandma Mima. So why did you name this Mima Cheesecake?
So I was having quite a large trouble with taking a name. It was taking me quite some time, and nothing was really sticking and speaking to me. And my mom, my amazing mother, who inspires me so much to be such a great businesswoman and the person that I am, I started making cheesecakes mostly because of her, because she's the one that introduced me to them. She's the one that always inspires me to bake and create as best as I can. And she always had my samples. Whenever I was creating new flavors and trying things out, she would have them in the house. And there was one day, my nephew, he was so sweet, he was about 1 year old, and he would always call them Mima's cakes because Mima always had cakes in the fridge. And she's from South Florida, so Mima's a very popular grandma name down there. It's something that just stuck to her. And I heard it once, and it just kind of, I couldn't let it go. I loved it so much. Of course, I do have her permission to call the business Mima's. But, she's the one that inspired me, and she's the reason I really am where I am today.
That's beautiful. What's your dream?
It ranges from huge to little dreams. I want to grow, and I want to be able to have everyone in Ottawa get to enjoy and love homemade cheesecake and have the options that I didn't when it came time to finding cheesecake. But I do want to just be there for my family and be able to spend time with them, and starting a business, being able to really enjoy my life with my family and with my loved ones.
Those are great dreams, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm thinking, because of course I'm a bit of a planner, although some stuff falls through the cracks, but we won't talk about that. But I'm a bit of a planner. So I'm thinking forward to, hostess gift or holiday parties. What does that look like for you? If I was to say, okay, Paige, I need, so many individual cheesecakes and I need a big cheesecake and all of that stuff, what's the ordering process?
So it ranges from really simple to, if you really want to be extravagant, absolutely. It's just as simple as sending out a contact form on my website. But I did try and make it as easy as possible for people that want to order my favorites. They just have to go to my website, and as long as I have 2 days notice, it'll automatically book their order into my calendar. And there's options for free delivery to Ottawa or a little bit of a fee if I'm going out to the Valley. And there are certain days that are being cut off because of orders and because of all the other options that I have right now. But it's pretty simple. Website, find your favorite, place the day and the delivery time, and that's about as simple as it gets.
Okay, we had a bit of a fight here yesterday. So I said the turtles was the best, and Noah said no, Oreo is the best.
Oreo was the best.
See, he's jumping in. He's saying Oreo was the best. So if you were going to choose over Oreo or turtles, what would you choose?
It's quite funny. So when I created the turtles recipe, I personally, now don't hate me out there, I don't love turtles. They're not my favorite chocolate.
Okay.
But my amazing boyfriend was the one that gave me the recommendation to try making a recipe for it. I had to make my own chocolate ratio to try and get it as similar, and mixed all the things together to try and make it as similar to an actual turtles experience as possible. And it is my best seller. And every single person that has it, if somebody has never had a cheesecake from me before, I get them to try the turtles because they will fall in love. Now, Oreo is a classic. Yes. You can't say that Oreo is not amazing. It's a classic. It's delicious. It's one of the first recipes I created. So, of course, it has a special spot in my heart as well.
Absolutely. Well, you certainly have done a great job. And there's one thing I know about people that, say to themselves, I'm going to put myself out there. I've created something. I want to engage others. I want to inspire others to come on this business journey with me. There's one thing I know. It's people that would rather work 70 hours a week for themselves or 40 hours a week for someone else, right? So you've chose to work 70 hours a week for yourself and for all of us who love cheesecake. And I know that is not an easy decision to make. So we appreciate all that you do. Keep doing the business of cheesecake, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Sam.
And that's Paige Morgan, owner and operator of Meemaw Cheesecake. We just received an emergency alert. It's a test of the Ontario Alert Ready system. There's no danger to health or safety. If it was an actual emergency, you would hear instructions on how to protect yourself. So that's just come through on my phone. And I looked out to our studio and I see everybody else is receiving that message as well through their phones, that emergency system. We know how important that emergency system was during the storm in May that swept across this region and how key that was. So we have Amber Alerts through those emergency alerts. We have a number of other important weather updates sometimes through that. So it's important that system is working. So that test was just done by the emergency alert system, and we certainly appreciate that. Listen, it's been a very busy day here. We're going to be following stories very closely. One of them that is obviously top of mind for a number of parents, especially those parents that would be affected, that CUPE has indicated that they potentially will be going on strike on Monday, which means kids will be learning remotely because for instance, the Ottawa Catholic School Board has indicated it's unsafe if the CUPE workers are not in class for students to be there. So it would go to remote learning. We know there's a number of various school boards affected. We're going to be keeping on top of this story very, very closely. So potentially kids will be going on strike if the province does not come back to the table and they cannot get this deal done. It's very stressful on parents. And I feel every single one of you that are hearing this for the first time today, that potentially your kids will be home learning on Monday, November the 21st. You want to keep it here, not only to today, but for, of course, the rest of the week. Thank you so much for being with us on Rogers TV. We really appreciate you viewing and sharing this time with us today, and really appreciate you listening on City News. I'm going to do it now. I'm going to turn it over to the one, the only, Danielle Bain on City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.